Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto refuses Toad Contract Council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by NXSE and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Konoha Hospital. Minato Namikaze and his wife were going to have some new additions to their family. Minato was ecstatic that he was going to be a father to 3 children at once, 2 daughters and a son. Oh, how he wanted to train his son to be a shinobi so that he could make his old man proud. And Minato already knew that Kushina always wished for a daughter. The seal on Kushina had held up pretty well, and just before birth, Minato had rechecked and strengthened it again just to be sure. Suddenly, a nurse came out from the OT and told him that everything had gone perfectly well, and that the children along with their mother were perfectly safe. Minato had heaved a deep sigh of relief at the last part. Minato had immediately rushed in, and a wide smile had broken across his face when he had seen an exhausted Kushina laying on the bed holding 3 precious children in her arms. He had gingerly taken the 2 identical-looking daughters from her arms, and had observed that the girls had retained their mother's red hair and violet eyes. Minato had handed them back to Kushina after a moment's deliberation, and he had went on to take his son into his arms, smiling ear to ear. Minato's son had inherited his strong Namikaze genes, and the boy looked just like his father. The baby boy had inherited his father's spiky blonde hair and sapphire blue eyes as well, and had 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks to boot. His son was going to be a lady killer and have a fan club, Minato mused giddily. Kushina had already told him that she was going to name her daughters Narumi and Mito, and Minato had already told her that he was going to name his son Naruto, and for once the bickering couple had mutually agreed with one another. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a masked man warped into the room through a vortex, and launched a hail of kunai at Minato. Minato instinctively jumped back, and swiftly dodged the kunai while the masked man went on to take advantage of his position to speak a select few words before warping Kushina and himself through the vortex again. 4th Hokage, I will be taking the Jinchuriki from here, and you should act fast lest see your daughters become a little. He paused for a moment's deliberation. Crisp, the masked fellow added with a childlike chuckle, and disappeared along with Kushina. Minato wondered for a moment if he was even sane or what he meant, but took one look in the crib of his daughters to see them wrapped in a blanket with exploding tags and his thoughts dried out pretty quickly. He picked up his children and used his Hiraishin no Jutsu to teleport out just in time as the room in the hospital exploded behind his back. Minato sat on his knees in silent contemplation. His eyes tracked a dry leaf fall down from a tree, and his arms cradled the snoring infants to his chest. Not a moment later, he disappeared into thin air before the leaf could make contact with the ground. Minato brought his children back to his house, and put them on the bed. He took 2 of his 3-pronged kunai with him from the table, and again used the Hiraishin marker on Kushina's seal and teleported to where she was. As he came to the clearing, he dreadfully saw that the Kyuubi had been freed and that thanks to the gods above Kushina had somehow managed to survive the extraction. But that was all he could thank them for as she was just about to be pierced by its claw. He picked her up bridal style, and teleported to a nearby marker thereby escaping the attack. The masked man laughed one again in that insane, childlike manner. You're just as fast as your name suggests, aren't you? Just like the stories say, Yellow Flash. He chuckled, and Minato turned to him to give him an icy gaze. That of a reaper. A veteran shinobi. An army killer. A gaze of a legend. The masked man had shivers running down his spine seeing his icy sapphire blue eyes and the confidence, experience and determination those eyes held. Minato, though, said nothing, and teleported back to the house where he laid Kushina down besides the triplets and stepped back. His eyes glazed over what he would have to do, and how he wouldn't be able to see his children grow up. If only Kushina wasn't injured or Jiraiya was in the village, they could have subdued the Biju and gone on reseal it without any loss of life. But now, there was only one seal that would be able to subdue as well as seal the Biju, but he had to turn his own children into Jinchuriki and condone the worst taboo right unto his children. Her eyes looked at him grimly. What are you going to do now, Minato? Whispered Kushina, already dreading his answer. I will have to split the demon and seal it into our children. Minato confessed thickly. I cannot ask another parent to sacrifice their child if I cannot do it to my own. How I'll split it, I haven't decided, but I'll figure it out. Don't you worry, he said in a reassuring tone. But Kushina started crying. You're going to use that jutsu, aren't you? She asked him in sobs. Minato looked down solemnly. There is no other way. But at least I can rest happy that they will have you watching over them, he admitted, and she nodded. She hugged her children tightly to her chest and cried as Minato put on his cloak, created 4 shadow clones who teleported to a clearing outside the village, and he himself teleported to the top of the Hokage monument only to see the Kyuubi destroying the better half of his village in a crazed rampage. Minato activated his Sharingan and flared his chakra to turn the Kyuubi attention towards him. He watched, his Sharingan flaring, as the Kyuubi started gathering chakra near his mouth and condensed it into a sphere before launching it towards him. Minato knew instinctively that should he let that attack hit, then everything and everyone near the mountain will be destroyed as well. That was not an outcome he as Hokage was willing to take place, not as long as he was still breathing. Minato went through several hand seals, and put his hands forward. Kanji spread in the air as it started absorbing the Baijidama, and teleported it outside the village. The villagers cheered seeing their Hokage take control of the battle. Through the hoots and cheers, Minato felt his instincts screaming danger, as he felt a presence behind him. Twisting around, he sought his arm around and pierced a kunai at the masked man's head, but was stunned when it phased right through his head, and the enemy grabbed his wrist in an iron bind. The masked man spoke once more, in a serious tone this time, completely different from his childish tone before. "It's over," he stated dryly. Minato smirked, exploding, and took the masked man by complete surprise. The invader cradled his burnt body, and seethed at being fooled by a mere substitution. Moreover, he had taken quite a bit of damage from that unexpectedly effective attack. Minato teleported to a rooftop nearby the Biju, and bit his thumb. He went through a chain of hand seals and slammed his palm on the ground. Ninja art, summoning Jutsu food cart destroyer. The whole ground rumbled as Gamabunta appeared on top of the Kyuubi, and slammed his butt over his head. The Baijidama he was preparing, disappearing from the abrupt distraction. "Eh? Minato, why the hell did you summon? Is that the Kyuubi I'm sitting on?" Gamabunta yelled frantically just as Minato hopped on top of his head, and started gathering his own chakra. "Bunta, just hold down the Kyuubi for a moment. I will subdue it, and seal it into my children," he said, and Gamabunta slammed his back over Kyuubi who tried to roar in defiance. "Stand down, you stupid mutt. Minato, do you really think it wise to seal it into your own children? You know what kind of lives Jinchuriki lead, are you sure about this?" he asked, and Minato had a solemn look on his face. "There is no other way," he sighed. "Besides, Kushina will take care of them. The only regret I have is that I won't be able to make my son into the shinobi I want him to be with my own hands, and watch my daughters grow up into the fine women I know they'll be," he admitted, and Gamabunta nodded with a sad smile. Minato finished gathering his chakra and teleported them outside the village in the clearing where his clones had already set up a barrier. "Minato, I won't be able to hold it down for long. Summon Pa and Ma for help," yelled Gamabunta. Minato nodded, bit his thumb and started going through hand seals before slamming his palm on the ground. Ninja art, summoning jutsu. Two small, but very ancient-looking toads puffed into existence. "Minato-chan? What is going on here? Why is Gamabunta sitting on the Kyuubi? And why is it free? What have you called us here for?" asked Pa in a frenzy. Ma turned her gaze to Minato as both came to a knot, feeling dread coil in their hearts upon understanding the situation. "Pa, I am going to split the Kyuubi and seal it into my children." Minato confirmed their worries. "Please, I need your help. Hold it down for me while I set up the ritual," he requested desperately, and Pa and Ma nodded. They rushed to the Kyuubi to hold it down using senjutsu while Minato created a shadow clone who teleported and brought his children and Kushina along to help stabilize and check the seal after the sealing was done. Minato went through a chain of hand seals and summoned the ritual altar from hell while the clone kept his children on the altar. Minato went through hand seals one last time and clapped his hands together. Forbidden secret art, dead demon consuming seal. A feeling of dread and coldness swept over the field as the Shinigami appeared behind Minato. "What do you wish to seal, mortal?" questioned the Shinigami just as Hiruzen, Kakashi and Tsunade appeared outside the barrier only to helplessly witness the sealing take place. "Shinigami-sama, I wish to seal the Kyuubi into my children. My wish is to split it, and seal it into them," Minato wished. The Shinigami spoke up again. "The children won't be able to hold half of the chakra and the soul together. Their bodies will not be able to withhold the strain the seal will cause. I must split its yin and yang chakra, and split them from its consciousness and body to seal it separately. Choose, mortal, which child will hold what," Shinigami stated monotonously. Minato mulled over it for a minute. His daughters had strong Uzumaki genes like their mother, and should be able to hold its chakra efficiently, while Naruto would most probably will inherit his Sharingan to control its consciousness should he ever need its aid. Minato had already had his decision made. "Shinigami-sama, seal the consciousness and body in my son, and the chakra in my daughters," he confirmed. The Shinigami said nothing, opting to pierce his hand through Minato's chest and sealed the chakra after splitting them into his daughters while he sealed the consciousness and body into his son. Minato added a 4-symbol seal on Narumi and Mito while he added an 8-trigram seal onto Naruto to balance the chakra that the Kyuubi might recover over the years, and leak it into the boy's coils slowly after purifying it all so that his chakra coils became strong enough for holding the increasing strain of the Kyuubi over the years. Minato felt the pain of his jutsu take its toll on his body, and fell down to his knees just as the Shinigami spoke one final time before he claimed his payment. "You have 15 minutes to do your last deeds in this realm for your honorable sacrifice. See and do what you want in these last moments before I claim your soul, and take you to the afterlife. Forever," the Shinigami stated, and Minato nodded gratefully. The shadow clones around him dispersed, and the barrier fell, making everyone gather around him. "Minato, what have you done?" Hiruzen cried. "Tsunade, treat him. He needs it, now," he shouted seeing his successor's condition. Kushina was crying heavily on the sidelines when Minato stopped Tsunade from treating him. The buxom blonde tried to protest, but he cut her off. It's of no use, Tsunade. Minato admitted softly. The Shinigami has given me 15 minutes for my last moments to be with you. Please, it's useless. As for the sealing, the children were not strong enough to hold all of the Kyuubi's chakra. So, I split its chakra into yin and yang and sealed it in my daughters for their strong Uzumaki genes, and its consciousness and body rests in my son, he said, looking at Hiruzen for the last part. Everyone looked on in sadness at the sacrifice Minato had made for the village, all of them unable to do anything to help him. Kushina stopped crying for a moment, and hugged him, sobbing thickly in his chest. Kushi-chan, Minato whispered, softly stroking her hair. Please go, and check if the seals have stabilized or not. See if the children are alright or not. I won't be able to rest in peace if my children had to suffer because I made a mistake in sealing, he said with a wince, and she got up hurriedly with nod to the children at the altar. He smiled as he saw her kiss and check over his daughters. At least they will have the love of their mother. But Minato's eyes turned icy and calculative when he saw a flicker of emotions pass through Kushina's eyes as she gazed at Naruto with utter hatred and disdain in her eyes while she checked on his seal. Suspicions and scenarios started playing in Minato's mind on seeing this, and he decided to take countermeasures just in case, and so, Minato turned to Hiruzen with his veteran shinobi eyes. Hiruzen instantly came near him seeing that look, and listened to him carefully. Sarutobi, get me 3 blank scrolls, and a brush and some ink. Minato whispered. Hiruzen nodded, giving orders to the ANBU through secret hand signs who brought him the required items in a second, and Hiruzen handed it to Minato. Minato started writing stroke upon stroke at a fast pace, and sealed the 2 scrolls with the Namake's blood seal. Much to Hiruzen's surprise, he added only Naruto's blood and chakra signature to them, and sealed the last one with Hiruzen's blood just as he decided to leave the third with his last instructions. Hiruzen, I have to tell you something important. And I only trust you with this, Minato whispered, pressing the scrolls on Sarutobi's chest. Hiruzen nodded wordlessly, hearing the gravity of his voice. The 2 scrolls with the Namake's seals are my will and a letter to Naruto, both of which you shall give him at the time of his graduation. The entire Namake's fortune shall be sealed until the time he graduates from the academy, and has enough experience and maturity to claim them as his, and his alone. I trust your judgment with its timing. The scroll with your blood seal is a letter that you must only open if Kushina ever decides to harm or abandon Naruto. Under no circumstances are you to let anything happen to him. Have him seen as the hero of the village he is. Naruto shall be named the Namake's clan heir due to his strong Namake's genes, while Narumi and Mito will inherit the Uzumaki fortune. I trust you to take care of Naruto if my suspicions come true. Can't I, Sarutobi? Hiruzen clasped his shaking hands and nodded tearfully. And reverse summon Pa and Ma at the time you reveal his heritage. He must have the toad contract I have left them. There will be some instructions with them too. Minato coughed thickly while Hiruzen looked confused and stunned. But Minato, Kushina would never do such a thing. Why are you? He stopped protesting just as Minato asked him in a cold voice. Do I have your word, Hiruzen Sarutobi? Minato asked coldly, and Hiruzen looked at him with determined eyes and nodded. Minato didn't want to believe it too, but he wasn't going to leave the fate of his child helpless if his fears did in fact come true. Yes, you have it. Naruto will be taken care of like a prince, and will get the possessions you have left if your fears do in fact come true. I give you my word. Hiruzen promised. Minato smiled, nodding. He coughed up even more blood, and seeing the stains on his hands he realized he didn't have much time left. Hiruzen, bring me my children. I want to see them, I want to hold them one last time. Minato whispered. Hiruzen went and brought him his children, and Kushina along with him as he handed him the children while Minato looked at them lovingly. Live your lives as you want. Minato kissed their cheeks. You are all special. Don't let anyone let you tell otherwise. You might face some difficulties in your lives, but never falter. And know that I am always watching over you, and your daddy loves you 3 with all his heart. Minato sniffled, handing them back to Hiruzen, who took them carefully in his arms. Minato, you can hold them some more. Hiruzen trailed off as he saw Minato's eyes drop close and his head drop. A smile was plastered on Minato's face, and some final tears rolled down his cheeks. Kushina fainted from exhaustion and shock while everyone dropped their heads in respect at the man's sacrifice as the strongest of all the Hokages left this world. Don't worry, my friend. Hiruzen whispered. I'll honor every wish of yours, and look after Naruto as if he was my own child. He mourned. Naruto cried, and Hiruzen tried to calm him down with a rock of his arms. After a few moments, Naruto fell asleep as Hiruzen took the children to the hospital along with their mother. 2 hours later, Konoha Hospital. Hiruzen was sitting in the hospital room after having his wounds treated, and was waiting for Kushina to wake up while he took care of her children. In the meantime, he had postponed the council meeting for the time being. The council members had protested, but had shut up and left happily after he had told them that he would retake his position as Hokage. Well, everyone except Danzo was happy, but that had been pretty obvious for Hiruzen from the start. Tsunade had left the village after Minato's death, saying she was going to live at the Senju property in the fire capital along with Shizen, as she couldn't live in the village, after everyone she trusted had already died in this cursed village. She didn't want to see any more deaths. She had even left him the Shodame's necklace, saying it was cursed as Minato was the last person she had given it to and he too had died. She had actually thrown it in the trash, but Hiruzen had kept his sensei's legacy for someone who was worthy enough. Suddenly, Kushina's eyes fluttered open as Hiruzen rushed to her side. Sarutobi, where is Minato? Kushina asked solemnly, and Hiruzen eyed her sadly. Minato is gone, Kushina, Hiruzen said mournfully. He left us a few moments after you fainted, he admitted, and silent tears streamed down Kushina's eyes. Where are my children, Hiruzen? She asked. Hiruzen stood up and went to the crib. Picking up the daughters, he handed them to her. Kushina smiled and cooed at them while Hiruzen went back to go fetch Naruto to hand him over to his mother. But Hiruzen's worst fears came true when Kushina slapped his hand away just as he tried handing Naruto over to her. What's the matter, Kushina? Hiruzen asked dreadfully. Don't you want to hold your son? He asked in confusion. Kushina looked at Naruto in utter contempt. Don't call that demon my son, Sarutobi. She spat venomously, making Hiruzen's eyes go wide. That thing took my husband away from me. Don't you dare call him my son. He is the Kyuubi reincarnate. Those whisker marks are proof enough. Kushina sneered at the child. Hiruzen took it all in with wide eyes, before his expression turned furiously red. What the hell are you talking about, Kushina? Hiruzen snarled right back. He just has the consciousness and body of the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. He is not the Kyuubi. Have you gone insane? You are a seal master yourself, and were a Jinchuriki merely a few hours ago. What's the matter with you? He asked furiously while Kushina returned his look full force. I told you, I don't have anything to do with that demonic child. He was dead to me as soon as Minato sealed the monster's soul in him. 2 souls, one of an infant and one of a demon coexisting, you make laugh. As far as I am concerned, I only have 2 daughters. She spat with a venom-laced voice. Kushina, please see reason. Hiruzen pleaded. You have been blinded by the loss and pain of Minato. Please, see him. He is an innocent child in need of a mother. Nothing more, he pleaded desperately, trying to hand Naruto over to her. But Kushina tried to slap his hands again before Hiruzen retracted his arms defensively. Do not bring him close to me, Sarutobi, or I swear will finish what I started and kill him to avenge Minato's death, Kushina said in a promising tone with such hatred that Sarutobi knew she meant it, and clutched the peaceful child to his chest protectively. I don't believe you, Kushina. You have fallen so low, Hiruzen whispered solemnly. Very well then. I shall take care of the boy as my own, he admitted in a steely voice to Kushina, who merely huffed and turned back to her daughters. I will go reside in the fire capital where the Uzumaki property is situated, under the protection of the daimyos. Kushina's words took Hiruzen by surprise. I'll raise my daughters over there and will come back during the time of their graduation after I am satisfied with their training. She promised, and Hiruzen nodded wordlessly. Minato, you truly were a genius in every sense of the word. I never believed Kushina could do such a thing to her own son until now, but you saw right through her, even in the face of death, and took precautions. Don't worry, old friend, I'll protect Naruto from every danger, whether it be from outside the village or the inside. I'll honor your every wish and give him his inheritance after he is ready and protect him until then. Hiruzen thought in his mind. I shall take some scrolls and things from the Namikaze compounds too before I leave. Kushina broke his train of thoughts. And know that I disown him from both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, she said as Hiruzen hardened his eyes and spoke in an even tone. I'm sorry, Kushina. But Minato has left specific instructions with me in case something like this happened after his death. He declared Naruto as his clan heir in his dying moments, and sealed off the Namikaze fortune until Naruto is ready to claim it. Until that time comes, no one shall touch a speck of grass on the Namikaze family fortune or their scrolls. He had already imagined this scenario even in the face of death and took necessary steps before he passed on. Minato has left me with specific instructions that you may do whatever you wish with the Uzumaki fortune, but the fortune of the Namikaze is sealed until the time I deem Naruto ready to claim it. Hiruzen said coldly, and Kushina's eyes widened hearing this. Minato had sealed off everything from her? And named it all to that thing? Preposterous. You can't do that to me. Kushina protested. I'm his wife. That fortune is mine, and our daughters'. Minato would never do such a thing to me. The Namikaze fortune belongs to me and my daughters alone, not to that thing. She spat in utter contempt. That thing, as you so call it, is the last child to inherit the strong Namikaze traits, and Minato has named him his heir in his last moments. You do what you want with the Uzumaki fortune, but you will have no say in the Namikaze clan affairs from now on. I am the legal guardian to it until Naruto claims it. Now I'll take my leave. I have a council meeting to attend to. You can leave the village anytime you wish. The sooner the better, Hiruzen said as left her in the room and stomped his way out. Hokage Tower, Council Chambers. Hiruzen walked into the sacred chambers to see all the clan heads already sitting on the right side and the civilian council to the left. The elders sat directly in front of his seat. He took his seat, with a softly snoring Naruto sleeping peacefully in his arms. 2 Anbu stood guard behind him. Hiruzen brushed his whisker marks just as Naruto snuggled in his chest, making Hiruzen smile. Hamura cleared his throat. Hiruzen, all of us would like to know what became of the Kyuubi? He asked, the thought on everyone's mind, and everyone looked at him expectantly. The Kyuubi has been defeated, and the threat has passed. Minato used a forbidden jutsu to split and seal the Kyuubi, Hiruzen said as everyone sighed in relief, but Shikaku spoke up. Hokage-sama, Shikaku cut him off. You said he split and sealed the Kyuubi? What did he seal it into? He questioned. Everyone looked at Hiruzen while he cursed under his breath. Damn those Narutos and their intelligence. I can't reveal Naruto's heritage to them. He would already have enough to deal with from external enemies after I revealed to them the truth of his burden. If his heritage is known too, then we might have to deal with many assassins and kidnappers from the inside. IWA and Kumo might even wish to abduct or eliminate the last, true Namake's heir. I'll keep it to myself until I reveal it, Naruto. Hiruzen decided inwardly. I'll just say Minato sealed it in his daughters, and that Naruto is an orphan with no ties to his parents. So many people died tonight, no one will ever suspect a thing, but I'll have him seen as the hero he is, Minato. He thought with a smile. Well, Minato split the Kyuubi into 3 parts. He sealed the yin and yang part of its chakra into his newborn twin daughters Narumi and Mito, seeing that they had their mother's strong Uzumaki genes, and had a good chance at controlling it. But he had to seal its body and soul into a separate entity, for which he chose young Naruto. His parents died tonight during the attack, and Minato made it his last wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero, and I have full faith in his abilities and his sealing, and so should you. He spoke pointedly. But that was all he said before all hell broke loose from the civilian part of the council. They shouted for the demon to be killed, and their families be avenged. Hiruzen purposefully left out the part that the Kyuubi will gain back its chakra over time and that Naruto will become the true Jinchuriki of the 9 tails after some years, as per what Minato had told him about the mechanics of his seal in his last moments. He didn't want Danzo to be too interested in Naruto, and try and turn him into a weapon, as Minato had once feared. Hiruzen wanted to keep his burden a secret, but he knew if it came out later then it might even cause a civil war, as everyone would be after Naruto's head. He suddenly let out his ki, and every last one of them shut up. Naruto whimpered in his sleep, making Hiruzen tone it down a bit, and rocked him left and right before Naruto fell into his deep slumber again. If you fools kill Naruto, then the Kyuubi will be free. And then what? It will regain his chakra in a few years, and return to finish what it started, and this time, we will not have Minato to stop it. Hiruzen snapped, and the civilian council fell silent, while the clan heads nodded tiredly, knowing full well that he was right. Hiruzen, where are the Jinchuriki with the chakra of the 9 tails? Danzo wondered as expected. I suggest that you let me take over their training and upbringing. I'll help them control their emotions better, and make them absolutely loyal to the village, he suggested calmly, as suddenly Mabuki Harino screeched, and everyone in the room winced. Yes, where are the princesses of the Uzumaki clan? She shrieked. They are the heroes of the village. I demand to know of their condition, she asked with a screech. Kushina will take them to the Uzumaki property in the fire capital. Hiruzen admitted bitterly. So as to keep them safe there under the protection of the daimyo. She will return after she has them trained well enough for them when the time of their genin exams is upon us. Hiruzen told her sourly. Danzo stood up, practically outraged. You can't allow that, Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki must stay close to the village, and the Hokage. They should be trained properly. We need to show our strength to the other villages in this moment of weakness. Also, I can train them to be strong and loyal to the village. Have her brought back this instant, he demanded, and Hiruzen sighed at the power-hungry old fool. To think he was once his friend, oh the irony. While that is true, Danzo, you yourself have clarified that we do not have the necessary forces to spare for their protection. They will be much more safe at the fire capital. Also, Kushina is best to train them, as I'm sure you know the reasons. Plus, they will return during the time of their graduation. What problem do you have with that? Hiruzen remarked offhandedly. Seeing everyone nod and agree except Mabuki, who kept screeching about keeping the princesses in the village, Danzo seethed at being outdone and losing his chance to have strong weapons under his control, but sat down in defeat. Hiruzen sighed inwardly in relief that Danzo had no interest in Naruto, seeing he had no chakra of the Kyuubi within him. He was practically useless to the man. Oh, how ironic, he thought to himself. Then they all asked what would he do about Naruto, and they said to lock him up in ANBU headquarters or send him off to a far-off island to be isolated, or some other ridiculous ideas, mostly from the civilian council, and he instantly shut them up by leaking a bit of ki again. Thankfully, Naruto was too deep in sleep to notice it this time. Naruto will live a normal life and become a loyal shinobi of this village, Hiruzen declared with steel in his voice. I hereby declare that no one shall speak of the link between Naruto and the Kyuubi to anyone of the younger generation. This is an S-class secret punishable by death without trial. Hiruzen roared. Everyone fell silent, seeing his furious expression. Hiruzen had to at least make sure that Naruto made some friends his age. Everyone hesitantly agreed, and talked about the damages incurred to the village, its forces and other political matters right until they called it a night. 3 hours later, Hiruzen went back to the Hokage Tower to spend the night with young Naruto, and an aching back. He finally got in bed, and blissfully slept with little Naruto snuggling into his chest, while he kept the boy tightly wrapped up in his arms. He was to be his grandson in everything but blood, Hiruzen thought to himself, and finally drifted off to sleep with a content smile. Naruto's soft snores sounded like purrs in Hiruzen's ears all through the night. Next morning, Hiruzen was suffering a severe headache at the moment from doing all this paperwork throughout the night without even a wink of sleep. Last night, after the information of Naruto's secret was revealed to the village, he had been disturbed all night long by civilian after civilian telling him to either banish the demon, or kill him, until Hiruzen had reminded them of the law in effect. Every single one of them had paled, and run off when Sarutobi had plucked out a gleaming kunai and threatened to implement his law then and there. Today, Hiruzen was patiently awaiting the arrival of his student, Jiraiya, alongside Kakashi Hatake, who Hiruzen had called through his toad summons to tell him of Naruto's condition, and to see if any one of them would like to keep Naruto's custody. Speaking of Naruto, Hiruzen had just had Anko take care of him and feed him. He was glad to see that the hyperactive Kunoichi looking so good with children, plus she was the only one he could ever trust with Naruto's care anyways. She knew the burden of carrying a curse, and respected the fourth Hokage above all else. As of now, Naruto was sleeping peacefully. The sight made Hiruzen smile, and he told Anko that she could leave and go rest for a few hours until he called for aid again. Instead of being glum, she seemed chum at the chance of spending some more time coddling baby Naruto. Seeing Naruto snoring away in those buxom mounds of heaven, Hiruzen had been envious of the boy for reasons he'd rather not admit. After she'd left, Hiruzen had opened up the letter that Minato had left in his care to read if certain conditions were met. And sadly, all of those conditions had been met just as Minato had once feared. Dear Hiruzen, if you are reading this letter, then I'm afraid my fears have come true. As I've already told you, of the 2 scrolls that I left for Naruto, this letter is meant for you, Naruto, and the eyes of elders of the Toad clan only. I have left you as the legal guardian of the Namikaze clan until Naruto inherits it. I know, if the conditions to read this letter have been met, then sadly, Naruto will lead a very lonely life. I fear that no one will want to be tied down to taking care of Naruto, much less adopt him. That is why, I want you to admit Naruto to the best orphanage that you can find, and pay for them from the Namikaze family account if need be. Tell Pa and Ma to make him the next Toad summoner after you tell him of his heritage. He will need their strength to protect himself in the future, for I fear the perpetrator of tonight's incident will return for his life. And I have left the key to the seal on Naruto with the Toads, making it essential for him to sign the Toad contract. Do not tell Jiraiya or anyone of the key, and make sure you tell Naruto about it once he is old enough to understand his burdens, and be there to explain how it works. Help him control the fox's chakra, since I fear Kushina won't be there to train him, and he will need all the power he could conjure up to protect himself from the masked Uchiha who had invaded the village tonight. The Toads too will help him to control his demons since they have a sacred place to help control nature and demonic chakra. I do not want Jiraiya to adopt him just because he wants him to control the fox's chakra to bring peace to the world and connect him to the prophecy. Have him raised as a child and not a tool, Sarutobi. I know he will wish to do so with Narumi and Mito as well, and I don't want Naruto to be burdened with such things at such young an age, and live a childhood that I could not. Try to keep my daughters away from the prophecy too, if you could. I want my children to have a normal childhood, and to have their innocence kept intact for as long as you possibly could. Protect him, if nothing else, Hiruzen, as a last favor to this dying father and friend. I leave my legacy in your hands, old friend. Minato Namikaze. Amen. Hiruzen put down the letter, and took off his glasses. He clenched his clouded eyes shut, and held back his tears. He sealed the draft back into the scroll until the time came for Naruto to open it once more. For now though, Sarutobi walked over to Naruto's crib and smiled as he brushed his fingers on the baby boy's whiskers. Naruto purred in delight, making Hiruzen chuckle softly. It seemed as if they were quite sensitive. Suddenly, the window slid open, and Kakashi and Jiraiya walked in. I was waiting for you too, Hiruzen said, unimpressed. Come on in, he motioned them in. Both hopped in, and stood in front of the table. Hiruzen lit his pipe, and gazed out the window. So you retook the seat, as Sarutobi-sensei? The kid left his hat way too early, Jiraiya whispered mournfully. Hiruzen nodded in agreement. That he did, he agreed, still looking out the window. Sighing, Jiraiya, Hiruzen started. Minato has left a great burden upon my shoulders, a burden which Kushina does not wish to see reason to, he admitted, and Jiraiya looked at him confused. Hiruzen said nothing to elaborate, and pointed towards the crib where the soft snores of a baby resonated from. Both Kakashi and Jiraiya walked over to the crib, and couldn't help but gasp in shock. Sensei, Jiraiya gulped. Is this his son? Jiraiya stuttered. Hiruzen nodded in affirmative. Why is he here then? Jiraiya thundered. I thought Kushina gave birth to 2 daughters, not a son as well. She told me as such when I sent her a summon last night. But she told me that she was leaving today at dawn for the fire capital. If he is, in fact, her son, then why is he here? Jiraiya naturally had to ask. Hiruzen smiled sadly, and continued on gazing out the window. She blames him for the death of Minato, Jiraiya. Hiruzen didn't mince his words. She looks at like him as if he is the Kyuubi reborn. Kushina is looking for someone to blame and bent, and has sadly chosen little Naruto as her culprit. Last night, she disowned him, and even threatened to kill him. Now, Jiraiya, I wish to ask of you, will you adopt Naruto? Hiruzen dropped the bomb. I know that you have a spy network to manage, but we can set up a timetable for it. I can have someone I trust help you with little Naruto. So what do you say, Jiraiya? Will you accept him? Hiruzen asked hopefully. He honestly thought without a doubt that Jiraiya would accept the boy willingly to honor his apprentice's last wishes. I'm sorry, sensei. Jiraiya's apology formed a pit of ice in Hiruzen's stomach. The village needs my spy network more than ever now, and I am not exactly father material, you know. I like to travel, do research, and write my books. Plus, the great Toad Sage has given a new prophecy. Pa and Ma told me that just last night. It says the powerful sapling born from 2 strong leaves shall lead the world to peace, and its enemies shall fear the look of his red eyes as he gazes upon them to protect what is precious to him. And I know for a fact that it has to be either Narumi or Mito. They fit the description perfectly. And they will even have red eyes once they channel the fox's chakra, just like Kushina did. I'll have to put all my time into nurturing them, so being with Naruto will be difficult, you know. Jiraiya apologized sincerely. I hope you understand, sensei. The future of the world takes priority over the life of a single child. You of all people must understand. Jiraiya tried to make him see reason. Hiruzen didn't even bother turning around to face him as his heart broke in two at hearing his students' admissions. Minato, you really did see through all of their hearts beforehand, didn't you? Even I didn't know my own student's nature, and yet you still saw right through him. Hiruzen thought sadly. I see, was all Hiruzen could say at the moment. Jiraiya was happy that his sensei was understanding his reasons. After all, the world did prioritize over Naruto, even though he did not like doing it. What will you do then, Kakashi? Hiruzen switched his words to the Jonin monotonously. Lord Third Kakashi bowed his head. I want to return to the duties of the ANBU. I have to get over my grief of losing yet another person precious to me. Naruto looks too much like sensei, and I won't have the time to look after him with my missions. But I promise, I'll watch him over him from the shadows, and even become his Jonin sensei when he grows older. He promised. That's quite a ways away for now, Kakashi. Hiruzen remarked pointedly. Kakashi nodded, knowing full well what the man was trying to imply, that it is, sir. To be honest, after everything he'd heard, Hiruzen wasn't even surprised anymore. I understand. Hiruzen waved his hand dismissively. Both of you are dismissed. He dismissed them. And just as both left the office, Hiruzen closed his eyes and sighed. I think you've heard everything? Hiruzen questioned seemingly no one in particular. 2 small toads came out of the shadows of the wall, tapping their canes to show their displeasure over the matter. Yes, we did. Pa clipped, annoyed. I'll admit, I never expected Jiraiya boy to leave Naruto-chan just for our prophecy, and his disgusting habits. He has fallen in respect of the Toad's great elders. We came up to check on young Naruto-chan, but I never imagined that Kushina-chan would forsake her own child, even if it is grief that has clouded her eyes. Ma admitted somberly. Neither did I, Hiruzen sighed. The Leaf Village too has disrespected Minato-chan's wish for Naruto-chan to be seen as a hero. Pa said with steel in his voice. The leaf has fallen from the grace and honor it once used to hold, back in the days when Hashirama-chan and Tobirama-chan used to guide its reins. Ma spat. Hiruzen smiled, thinking of those times, and knowing that they were right. This really wasn't the same village anymore. Its founders would have been ashamed of what their vision became in wake of their deaths. What do you wish to do now? Hiruzen asked the 2 toads. They looked at each other, and nodded. We shall remove Jiraiya-chan from the Toad summoning contract effective immediately. Pa tapped his cane decisively. He has fallen from the ways of our clan. We will make Naruto-chan our new summoner, and we shall pledge our loyalty to him, and only him, not to the leaf. Bunta also said that he was excited to fight alongside the child, once he was older that is, and wanted to become his familiar. He wishes to introduce him to his sons too, Gamakichi and Gamatatsu. We shall be loyal to the leaf so long as Naruto-chan intends to protect it, and no more. He declared his loyalties to the stunned Hokage. But the toads have been allies of the leaf, for Hiruzen tried to protest. Ma interjected. The great Toad Sage believes him to be the child of prophecy, and we do too. She added, Minato-chan entrusted us the key to his heir's seal, and asked us to give it to Naruto-chan whenever you deemed him ready. There are many things that Minato-chan left at Mt. Mayaboku for him to inherit. We shall give it to the boy after he becomes aware of his heritage, she said in an iron voice. Pa and Hiruzen nodded in agreement to her words, but Hiruzen couldn't help but worry a little. The leaf had taken yet another severe loss in power by almost losing the only powerful battle summoning contract left in the village if not for Naruto. The snake contract was with Orochimaru, with Anko only having a partial contract to them, and the slugs were loyal to the Senju and the Uzumaki only, and Hiruzen could only wonder how long the ears of Shikatsu Forest would remain oblivious to this truth. Kushina and Tsunade were the only summoners left, and they too were not active shinobi of the village. Hiruzen wondered if taking the seat had indeed been the right thing to do with all the power vacuums left in wake of Minato's death. Hiruzen looked at little Naruto with a smile, knowing full well the boy would be a thorn in his backside, and cause him a hell of a lot of paperwork when he grew up. He was already really important to the village as the last of the Namikes, and the only summoner to the legendary Toad clan now as Jiraiya had been expelled from the contract. He thought about his student's reaction when he realized that his contract, on which he was so heavily reliant, was nullified. He watched silently as Pa and Ma walked up to Naruto's crib, and Pa picked him up. Naruto woke up from his sleep with a cute yawn, and gazed at the weird Toad with wide, droopy eyes as he tilted his head to the side. Pa held him in front of his face, both intently gazing into each other's eyes. Well, Naruto-chan, he settled him a bit more snugly in his arms. Would you like to be the next Toad summoner? Pa asked him with a smile. Naruto laughed with a clap, thinking it was funny, and hugged him. All of them chuckled in unison. I think that's a yes, isn't it, Sarutobi? Said Ma, and Pa nodded. What say you, Sarutobi? Pa wondered. Hiruzen smiled. I think yes as well. Ma walked up to Naruto just as Pa finished slicing Naruto's little thumb a little, forcing it to bleed, and started writing his name Naruto Namikaze on the summoning scroll. He slapped a handprint over his scroll, and roughly smeared the print on the paper to make sure it was done right. Naruto sniffed a little from getting his thumb cut, and, as if on cue, Ma bashed Pa on his head while he yelled indignantly. You idiot! She thundered. You cut too deep. Look, you made him cry! She roared when Naruto sniffed again, and Ma plucked him up from the ground, and rocked and cooed him. Ah, Naruto-chan is a brave boy. Isn't he? She cooed, and the boy giggled, momentarily forgetting his pain while his thumb healed almost instantly. Hiruzen was wide-eyed at the speed with which it healed, as was Pa. It seemed that the Kyuubi gave him a healing factor. Pa had come to the same conclusion as Hiruzen had, and was equally shocked as well. He wished to ask what will become of little Naruto, and who will look after him from here on out. However, what are you going to do about young Naruto's nurturing, Sarutobi? Pa wondered. Where will he live? Hiruzen sighed, and plopped down on his chair, feeling well beyond his years. I want to keep him with me, yes? But I have way too many duties now, seeing their disapproving look. And even if I did want to keep him, the council would raise hell over it. They decided last night that none of the clans could adopt him in fear of them releasing the Kyuubi to gain power, and none of the civilians will adopt him for obvious reasons. So, that leaves only the orphanage. Hiruzen added to save himself some face. What of his accommodations? Ma asked. I will try and find him the best orphanage there is, and even pay them some extra money to keep him safe and well treated. I'll have Kakashi and my other ANBU check up on him from time to time. I made a law for people not to tell the younger generation of his burden, so that he may be able to make friends. I'll visit him as often as I could, but it will be difficult to take out any more time. After he is 6, I'll have him entered into the academy, after which he'll graduate at the recommended age of 12. That is what I have planned for now. His father made sure he would have the money to live well, and I'll give it to him monthly as a stipend until he claims his fortune in order to keep his identity under tight wraps. Hiruzen explained, and Pa and Ma nodded, satisfied. We too will check up on him regularly. They told Sarutobi. But we shall not reveal ourselves to him until the time is opportune. I wish you luck, Sarutobi, and we trust that you'll take care of our summoner? They asked him, and Hiruzen smiled. I'll do what I can. Hiruzen promised. Pa nodded, and tapped his cane as both he and Ma left in a puff of smoke. Hiruzen began checking through the files and various records of the orphanages in the village to try and find one with the best comforts for him to offer. But that issue was only secondary for now. Hiruzen needed to find a place where Naruto would be accepted, fully. He began going through file after file, rummaging through them, and eventually finding none that would fit his requirements completely. Sarutobi groaned. This was going to be a long day. Time skip 5 years. Naruto sat in his room in the orphanage, gazing out the window with a fond smile. His private room had all the basic amenities a child his age could ask for: a comfortable bed, a desk, some bookshelves with picture books, and a closet full of clothes. He even lived a normal life just like any other orphan did. At least one who could pay for these luxuries should live like that is. Hiruzen had threatened the orphanage owners to shut it down if they tried anything fishy, and have them arrested on grounds of treason to their kage if it was proved in any which way that they were involved in hampering the child's growth in any manner, direct or indirect. Needless to say, the workers at the orphanage had treated him pretty fairly, but even then they kept their distance from him, and even kept all the children there away from him in fear of retribution from the orphanage's owners. Naruto didn't know why, but they said that he was bad. Even though he couldn't remember what he had done so bad to hurt them. He had every single one of the basic amenities needed for a child his age, but he was still very lonely. They never even let him play outside in the park, always saying that it was dangerous for him to go out and that he should stay inside for his own good. Naruto wondered why it wasn't dangerous for the others to go outside, but nevertheless complied with his warden's wishes. He kept reading picture books after picture books, and ever since they started to teach his peers how to read and write properly, Naruto had the option of reading simple story books to pass his time. He still craved for friends, and something new to do outside the village would be pretty nice though. Tomorrow was the 10th of October, the day his idol, the 4th Hokage, defeated the Kyuubi and killed it while sacrificing himself. Naruto had heard that story practically 1,000 times, but he just couldn't get enough of it. The 4th was so cool. The orphanage workers had once told them of the tale when the man had fought tooth and nail in the final battles of the Third Great Shinobi War. The man had stood tall and proud in front of 1,000 shinobi all alone after his comrades were killed, and he had to defend the Kanobi Bridge, or the Leaf would have lost the war after losing that front. At that moment, it was said that the fourth used his legendary Hirashin no Jutsu and disappeared and reappeared all around the battlefield through the kunais he had spread around beforehand, and had defeated one less than 1,000 of his enemies all alone. It was said that he had left one enemy alive on purpose, just so that he could go back and tell the enemies of their loss, and how the Leaf could have won the war almost single-handedly at any given point. That battle had given him the name Yellow Flash, and the man was given a SS class rating in bingo books. Naruto didn't know what that funky-sounding book was, but it must have been just as cool, if not more. He was the fourth shinobi ever to reach a SS ranking, after only Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, the people who found his village. The fourth was the only person ever to get a flea-on-sight order from his enemies in the history of the elemental nations. That meant that you won't make it back alive if he even caught a glimpse of you. How cool was that? His version of the Hirashin no Jutsu was considered one of the deadliest jutsus in the world to this day. As Naruto had heard the tale, he had forged stars in his eyes and had made him his idol, his goal. He wanted to surpass the fourth Hokage one day, and make everyone idolize him like that too. Tomorrow, the village was going to celebrate the defeat of the Kyuubi, the strongest of the demons, at the hands of his idol, and he wanted to go see it. He was going to ask the people at the orphanage if he could go out tomorrow. Each year, he asked the kind old man who gave him various kinds of gifts to take him there, since every warden seemed to hear what he said with one ear and flick it out the next. But each time the old man told Naruto not to go to the festival, it was dangerous for him. When he had asked why it was dangerous for only him, the old man had told him that he would tell him later when he ready. Naruto had begrudgingly agreed with the man, seeing as he was the one person who cared the most for him anyways. Why, Naruto didn't know, but the man did, and he was glad for it. It was common sense not to look a gift horse in the mouth, after all. Hiruzen was presently sitting in his office, clearing stacks upon stacks of paperwork due for the festival tomorrow, and he needed all his active shinobi inside the village not on missions to secure it from outside threats. Then, his thoughts turned to his favorite ball of sunshine. Naruto had grown up to be such a nice boy. The innocence in those bright baby blue eyes was intoxicating. The way they sparkled with mischief, and his goofy foxy grin was so much like Minato that it wasn't even funny. One of his wardens had even commented as such, causing Sarutobi to nearly have a seizure, before scoffing the very idea off, much to the shaking Hokage's relief. He was smart like his father too, since, apparently, he had obtained his intelligence as well as his looks from his father. Hiruzen had kept his promise to Minato, and had tried to give him the best of what life had to possibly offer for an orphan child. He gave him all the material things that the boy could ask for, but knew Naruto yearned for one thing in particular, and didn't care about those physical things like other kids around him did. Friends. Hiruzen had tried to talk to him about it, but he always said he was fine. His trained eyes always caught that pang of loneliness flash through Naruto's eyes which made his heart ache in anguish. The boy was as transparent as a glass pane, for his eyes gave him away nearly every time Naruto tried to hide something. He hadn't seen the horrors like Minato had to come to conceal his emotions, but money and power could only buy a child so much except friends. Hiruzen couldn't force people to like Naruto, but he was saddened that they disrespected their hero's last wishes. Hiruzen had yet to hear a word from Kushina, but he had gotten several letters from the daimyo saying they were living well and were very happy. His student, Jiraiya, had apparently also been in constant contact with Kushina and his daughters, and was now like a grandfather to them. Hiruzen had nearly rolled his eyes at that. Ever since he was evicted from the Toad summoning contract, Jiraiya had toned down on his spying, and come to see how much he had relied on the Toads for infiltration, and was now concentrating on training the twins to nurture the child of prophecy. That wasn't the only disappointment life had to offer for Sarutobi, however. Tsunade too had gone to the fire capital to the Senju property, and was currently gambling, and drowning the Senju fortune in sake and debts. Apparently, Jiraiya had returned to the Konoha hospital, black and blue, 2-3 times after the beatings Tsunade and Kushina gave him for his corrupt ways. Evidently, the twins too had come to inherit Kushina's special, dense chakra, further solidifying Jiraiya's beliefs in them being the children of prophecy. Hiruzen sighed. Each one of his students had failed him in one way or another, but Hiruzen was resolved not to repeat that same mistakes with Naruto. He would show the boy the true path of a shinobi, just like Minato had entrusted him to. He would pass on his will of fire to the boy. Tomorrow was his birthday, Hiruzen mused with a smile, and he had already bought Naruto's gifts, knowing full well that he would be ecstatic seeing them. But then, there was the matter of the Kumo delegation coming tomorrow, and he knew he wouldn't be free until much later in the night. Hiruzen looked at his forearm to see a tracking and alerting seal branded on his flesh. He had placed one on Naruto, and it would stay with him until the boy could handle himself. He had placed it on him when he was 3, and it would burn on his forearm if the boy was in a life-threatening danger. At that moment, Hiruzen didn't know how little time he had to test his seal. Next day, Naruto woke up bright and early since, tonight, he was going to go to the festival and celebrate with the others. He would finally see the festival in honor of his hero. He had even been saving some money for this day, and would make sure to enjoy himself to the fullest, and maybe even make some friends out there if he was lucky. He walked out to the mess, and had breakfast, and then a light lunch as the evening came by. Naruto walked up to the orphanage workers, and decided to ask them if he could go out. Maybe they'd say yes if he was lucky? Who knew? They looked at him questionably though when he began speaking up. Can I go to the festival tonight, please? Naruto asked. Shyly shuffling on his feet, Naruto tried to contain his anxiety as best as possibly. Just as an orphanage worker was about to refuse, another kept a firm hand over his shoulder and gave him a sly smile. The first one returned the smile. Of course you can, kid, they grinned in unison. Go on and enjoy yourself. Maybe you can try and make some friends out there too while you're at it. They offered kindly. Really? Naruto chirped. Of course. They nudged him out the door to further bait the blonde, who looked at them happily with a grin and proceeded to run out of the orphanage with a hop to his feet. The lot of them cackled excitedly. Tonight the village will definitely be rid of the demon. Naruto was running out the streets in joy. He came up to several stalls, played games, and ate several delicious things. The merchants were from different villages, so they didn't throw him out, or even talk to him rudely for that matter. Many of the villagers were glaring coldly at him, but the boy was too happy to notice. He was walking through the crowd when he was suddenly pushed into an alley, and Naruto looked up to see three men with strange white eyes looking at him, probably blind, while Naruto got up and dusted himself off. Can I help you, mister? He asked him politely, though the man grew furious. Yes. You can die for me, demon, he yelled. They ran towards the blonde with a kunai, and Naruto took off in fright. They chased him as he weaved, ducked and ran through alleys, and then saw a fence in front of him. He jumped on a wooden box, then on a big closed dumpster, and then over the fence. Naruto turned to see the men and how far they were, but watched in horror when they threw a slew of 10 kunai knives at him, and Naruto felt fear clutch his chest. How was he supposed to dodge them mid-air? Naruto's heart rate accelerated, blood pressure increased, and he unconsciously channeled a huge pulse chakra to the veins behind his eyes. As soon as his eyes were flooded with enough chakra, the world around him grew sharper. He could even make out the wings of insects flying in the air, and saw that the kunai knives that were too fast for him to decipher now appeared to be moving towards him in slow motion. Confused, Naruto grabbed onto one of them in midair, and started deflecting the rest of them. He managed to deflect 7 of them, but wasn't able to finish the last 2 even though he could argue that they were a lot slower than he was, one of which lodged itself in his right shoulder, the other in his left thigh. Naruto howled in pain, and fell down. He crawled back into the corner of the dead end to the alley, and brought his knees to his chest defensively. He curled up into a ball, knowing he couldn't escape now. Naruto whimpered, and waited for the pain to come just as they started kicking his small body, and his cries for help were drowned in the loud music adorning the festival behind this hell. Did you see his eyes? One of them exclaimed as he launched another kick. Yes, seems as if he has the Sharingan. Is he an Uchiha? The other one asked. No one has activated the Sharingan at so young an age. The demon must have stolen them from a corpse. Serves him right that we are here to witness its true colors, the third one devised, and they started kicking him even more viciously. Naruto could do nothing but take it all. It hurt so much, but why were they hitting him? He wasn't a demon, was he? His mind closed in on itself as he numbed out from the pain, and fell unconscious. But they continued beating him, not bothered by his poor state in the slightest. They wanted to kill him slowly, and woefully become the silent heroes of the village that avenged their savior on the night of his noble sacrifice. The village would surely hail them come dawn, for sure. A few minutes prior, the Hokage Tower, council chambers, Hiruzen was sitting in his office, talking with the Kumo delegation who were making illegible demands for the treaty. It looked as if they weren't even interested in the treaty, but were here for something else entirely. What it was, he couldn't figure out, but damn did he want to get out of her right now knowing that Naruto would be eagerly waiting for him in the orphanage. These idiots were wasting precious time on his grandson's birthday, damn it. Then, he suddenly felt a burning sensation light up on his forearm, and his eyes widened in abject horror seeing the tracking and danger seal of Naruto glow a bright and dreadful red. Hiruzen stood up abruptly, throwing back his chair in the process, and the room fell silent when Hiruzen disappeared in a torrent of flames with only one thought coursing through his mind. Naruto, hold on, I'm coming. Back in the alleyway, Naruto was currently drifting in and out of consciousness. The pain wouldn't let him fall unconscious even though he was starting to feel completely numb. His heart, right now, was just accepting death, even with a happy beat on thinking that he might get to see his parents now. There was a serene, innocent smile on his blood-stained face. Suddenly, a massive killing intent flooded the alleyway, and the 3 felons stopped their ministrations and turned around in fright. They made the mistake of gazing into the furious eyes of the professor, and 2 of them fell to their knees from fright, while the third one managed to squeak through gasps. Welcome, Hokage-sama. He stuttered in greeting. My lord, we were just about to finish what the force started. You are just in the nick of time, he offered, and felt a sudden pain rock his arms and legs. His mind went blank in horror seeing 2 kunai embedded in each of his limbs to the hilt, bracing him tightly against the wall as if he were being crucified. Bird weasel, Hiruzen barked to the ANBU behind him. Take them back to Ibiki and Anko for interrogation, and tell those two to execute these bastards as soon as they are finished telling the details. I don't even care if they are Hyugas or Uchihas. Then, call Haishi to my office, first thing tomorrow morning, or tell him there won't be a main branch of the Hyuga at sunset anymore. Those are orders from their Hokage. Am I making myself clear? He roared, and the ANBU knelt behind him dutifully. Hi, Hokage-sama. Both yelled in unison, and disappeared with the prisoners. Hiruzen knelt beside the curled-up blonde, who was covered head to toe in blood, slickly pulled out knives from his little body, and gasped at seeing his active Sharingan visible through his half-lidded eyes. Naruto had activated it, at only 5. Preposterous. Not even Madara, or Itachi had done it at that young an age. Hiruzen was horrified though, when he saw Naruto smiling a serene smile. Why the fuck was he smiling? Naruto-kun, please, Hiruzen gently murmured. You must wake up. Do not fall asleep, child, he said, shaking him up as Naruto's eyes opened a bit. Still smiling, he spoke. Gigi? Is that you? He coughed. Hiruzen's eyes clouded in a haze, but he held back his tears. Yes, it's me, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen croaked. Hold on, little one, he said, hoisting Naruto in his arms as Hiruzen took to the roofs, and started zigzagging through them to the hospital. Gigi, am I going to meet Daddy Tuchan now? Naruto whispered dizzily. The dam that Hiruzen was holding back broke free, and he increased his pace manifolds. The child's body wasn't even in the condition to handle a Shunshin no Jutsu. The boy was smiling, because he was sure that was going to die that he was about to meet his father. Naruto had constantly nagged him about his parents' identities, but he had always dodged it, saying his father was a hero of the village, and that one day, when he was old enough, Hiruzen would tell him about it. His innocent mind wasn't even registering the pain. Naruto was instead happy to have a chance to meet his father. No, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen sniffled. Not yet, you still have a lot of things to do before you meet him, child. He whispered through tears, as his feet reached the hospital. Hiruzen rushed in through the doors, and stood in the middle of the waiting area. Medics! Hiruzen yelled as a team of doctors surrounded him, and took the bloodied boy from his arms, rushing to his treatment. The doctors only saw him as the patient, as were their rules, thankfully. No emotions with the patients, they were taught. Hiruzen had to wait outside the emergency room while they treated him for almost 3 hours before one of them came out. Hiruzen stood up and rushed near him in a frenzy. How is he, doctor? He is safe now. The doctor tried to ease his worries. We have treated and stitched all his injuries as well as plastered his fractures. He is healing at an unnatural rate though, and will probably wake up by tomorrow afternoon. Was all he said before going off, and Hiruzen sighed in relief. He fell back in his chair. To think his grandson wrapped in bandages on his birthday, silent tears rolled down Hiruzen's eyes. Suddenly, his eyes hardened and his throat constricted. Inu, weasel! Hiruzen barked, with the 2 ANBU appeared behind him, kneeling. Go to Naruto's orphanage staff. Arrest everyone there, and take them to Ibiki for questioning. After interrogation is done, those found even with the slightest hand in this incident will be executed. No questions asked? Is that clear? He asked them, and both nodded. Hi, Hokage-sama. Both yelled in unison, and disappeared in smokeless shunshins. I'm so sorry, Minato. I have failed you this time. You must be ashamed at seeing the village treat your son like this. But this was the last time I slipped up, I promise. Hiruzen wondered in agony. He has activated his Sharingan, and it will raise a lot of questions. Most people will not have trouble joining 2 and 2. I must seal his Kekkei Genkai for the time being, or else people might reveal his identity, and see him as even more of a threat than he already is. I'm sorry, forgive me for this, Naruto, but one day I'll reveal everything to you, I promise, and I'll protect you from now on. No matter what. Hiruzen couldn't have been more wrong in making his promise. As elders used to say, don't make promises you can't keep. Konoha Hospital. Naruto opened his eyes groggily, and found himself covered head to toe in bandages. The events of last night rushed back to his mind, and the boy couldn't help but wince from his memories. He had known for sure that he was going to die, but alas, he remembered his grandfather figure coming to his rescue, and taking him to the hospital in his arms right after saving him. He smiled stupidly as he thought of the man who was essentially his grandfather. He really was a kind, old man. Suddenly, the door to his room opened, and a nurse walked in with a clipboard and looked at him, obviously surprised to see him awake. Ah, you're awake already? She squealed happily. How do you feel? She asked him. Naruto tried to move his arms around to flex out his muscles, and smiled at her. The nurse, seeing him move so freely after such injuries, was surprised at the unreal rate he was healing with. Hiruzen had only chosen his personally selected staff of medics for Naruto's care. He had only selected those few who didn't resent the kid, and those who did had been threatened to be trialed on grounds of treason should they attempt to do anything wrong. With the child, the latter order had quickly shut off any weird ideas from blooming in their minds. Can you undo the bandages? Naruto requested softly. It's starting to irritate my skin, he mumbled, embarrassed. The nurse giggled at his awkwardness, and nodded before unwrapping his bandages only to blink on seeing him healed up completely on the inside. Naruto, oblivious to her staring, thanked her, and she smiled at him before ruffling his hair. They were so soft. I'll go and tell Hokage-sama that you are awake. The nurse told him. He told us to inform him as soon as you wake up. He really cares for you, little one. Now I'll go and bring you some breakfast too. I'm sure you're starving, she said knowingly. Naruto had the decency to smile sheepishly at her Aktuta assumption, and she laughed as she walked out. At the Hokage office, Hiruzen sat in his office, furious beyond belief at the handiwork of those orphanage workers. Ibiki had just handed over his detailed report, and the man had managed to crack out nearly everything out of every possibly suspect overnight, while Hiruzen had already had them executed, and their bodies burned for treason to their village before even the crack of dawn. Hiruzen was presently waiting for Hayashi to speak with him on the matter. Last night, apparently, the Hyuga heiress had been attempted to be abducted from her house. Hayashi had killed the abductor in defense of his daughter, even more so to save the unsealed Byakugan from falling into enemy hands. He was waiting for the man to speak to him about last night's attack on Naruto, and if he had anything to do with it. They had already discussed the events of the attempted kidnapping last night due to the emergency meeting called by Hayashi Hyuga himself. Hiruzen was broken out of his thoughts as Hayashi walked in. Hiruzen motioned him to a chair. Have a seat, Hayashi, he offered kindly. Hayashi nodded. You summoned me, Hokage-sama? He asked curtly. Hiruzen nodded. Indeed I did. Last night, there was an attack on young Naruto's life from 3 members of your clan. I arrived just in time to save his life, but he was badly injured, Hiruzen flatly stated, and Hayashi was shocked to the core that they would do such a foolish thing and disgrace the Hyuga name all for what a demon brat. I apologize for the actions of my clansmen. Hayashi bowed his head politely. I was completely unaware of it. Do not worry though, they will be properly punished. I'll see to it, personally, he promised. There's no need for that, Hiruzen interjected. They have already been executed for treason against the village, and their bodies have been burnt. Anyone who does anything like this to another fellow citizen of the Leaf will be met with the same fate. I've decided to make an example out of them, he said calmly. Hayashi stood up in outrage. What? You can't do that, he protested. Hiruzen's eyebrows shot up to his hair. Excuse me? Hayashi rambled on. You executed 3 of my clansmen, just for that thing? How could you do that? What he couldn't say was that Hiruzen had made an example out of them. The Hokage narrowed his eyes. You will not take that tone with me, understand? Hiruzen reprimanded sharply. Before Hayashi could even begin to apologize, you should realize who you are speaking to, Hyuga. Do not question my authority ever. You are just a clan head, and a shinobi under my command. I am the leader of this village. Know your place, Hiruzen added coldly. Hayashi sat back down, his anger all but gone from his mind. He wiped the sweat off his brow, as he was brought back to earth to realize just who he was talking to. I apologize for my outburst, Hokage-sama. I was out of line. Hayashi apologized profusely. Last night has been pretty stressful for me, as I'm sure you could imagine, he added as an excuse. Apology accepted. Hiruzen lit his pipe, unimpressed by the man's lies. Remember this the next time though. I may not be this forgiving then, he warned him calmly, and Hayashi nodded shakily. If that is all, Hayashi sighed. May I take my leave, Hokage-sama? He asked. Hiruzen nodded and he watched as Hayashi left when suddenly an Anbu appeared in his wake. Hokage-sama, Naruto Uzumaki is now awake, he informed dutifully. Hiruzen nodded and waved him off, himself vanishing in a shunshin to go to the hospital and see his grandchild in all but blood. It was Hiruzen's turn to make apologies now, the man thought despairingly. At the hospital, Naruto's room, Naruto idly sat in his bed, gazing out of the window to see some birds in a tree with a stupid smile. Suddenly, the door to his private ward opened and in walked Hiruzen, completely silently, to his bedside and sat by the chirpy-looking boy's side who was currently too lost in gazing at the birds to pay any heed to his presence. It was humbling to see the change in behavior towards him, if only in a child, if Hiruzen were to be perfectly honest. Glad to see you awake, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said. Naruto was startled, yelped, and tried to curl up in a ball, but seeing Hiruzen, he relaxed a little and a small smile lit on his lips. It's good to see you, Gigi, Naruto whispered timidly, and Hiruzen's heart broke in two seeing his involuntary reaction, and the loss of his cheerful shout whenever he previously saw him. His eyes still held their innocence within them, but Hiruzen could see them darting them every which way. The boy was fully alert on guard. Hiruzen's heart ached in agony seeing the little boy putting his guard on like a veteran shinobi, and a feeling of shame and regret crossed his face for it. Hiruzen pulled himself back against the pillow right beside Naruto, and wrapped an arm around his shoulder. He brought the boy's face to his chest, and smiled when Naruto snuggled into it. He was honestly glad that Naruto still trusted him enough to accept an embrace, and he would be damned to make sure he kept that trust intact, as unwarranted it may be. But then he asked something that stabbed Hiruzen right through the gut. Gigi, am I a demon? Naruto whispered solemnly. Hiruzen tightened his arms around the boy, and closed his eyes in shame. He knew what those damn Hyugas might have told him. Ibiki was really thorough in the reports he made, and he had made a small note that after Anko had found out what they'd done to Naruto, she had been extra tender with them. Hiruzen had physically shivered at the thought of an overprotective big sister, as sadistic as Anko, slicing and dicing her victims. Since she shared a special bond with Naruto after taking care of him when he was a little baby, Hiruzen couldn't blame her for it. Hiruzen bowed his head in shame at the fact that he had let this crime happen in the first place. No, Naruto. Hiruzen shook his head sadly. You are not a demon, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I am the Hokage, and if I say you aren't a demon then you aren't, alright? He asked. Naruto sniffed in his chest and nodded before breaking away from the hug. Hiruzen wiped his moist eyes with his sleeves just as the nurse came in with Naruto's breakfast in tow. Both ate silently, since Naruto was kind enough to share some with Hiruzen, and the man smiled at Naruto's kind gestures while ate with him. The NBU in the shadows protecting him couldn't help but smile at their interactions. Gigi, can I ask you a question? Naruto asked quietly. Hiruzen placed a hand on his shoulder and nodded. Naruto said nothing, shaking his head in negative. Alone? He whispered. Hiruzen looked at him confused, unaware as to what he meant by that. But just as Naruto looked up at the right corner of the ceiling, right towards the hidden NBU, all of their eyes went wide. Hiruzen signaled them to leave, and as soon they were alone, he saw Naruto relax a bit more. Apparently, the boy had known of his guests the whole time. Intriguing. Well, Hiruzen started. How did you know that they were there, Naruto? He asked. Naruto looked at him awkwardly and whispered in a scared voice, I could feel them there. He admitted softly. But I am not a freak or a monster, really, he insisted, tugging on Hiruzen's sleeves desperately. Hiruzen, though, was shocked that he was a natural sensor just like all the Uzumakis before him, and could sense even an NBU's presence without concentrating too much. Naruto? Hiruzen asked, dread coiling in stomach like a snake. Why do you keep saying that you are a monster? He asked dismally. Naruto looked down. The wardens at the orphanage said so when I told her about it, and then everyone started teasing me, saying that I was a freak who didn't belong with them, he said sadly. Hiruzen, though, was furious. Those damn civilians really were idiots he made them out to be, and he was glad that Enko was having her fun with them even now. Naruto, Hiruzen caressed his whiskers kindly. What you have is a very rare ability which only very strong shinobi possess, and it helps them immensely throughout their lives, he explained. Naruto, in a turn of mood, looked at him happily, and smiled widely. Really? Naruto chirped. Did the fourth have it too? He asked excitedly. Hiruzen chuckled. He was still the same Naruto, all right. Yes, Minato too was a natural-born sensor, and he used it immensely in his battles. Hiruzen confirmed. Naruto had twinkling eyes just thinking about him having the same abilities as his idol had once possessed. He considers you his idol, and looks up to you so much that it is almost painful. He forgot all about his pain as soon as you were mentioned. I really do wish you were here. Minato, Hiruzen thought in fond nostalgia. Well, Gigi, I want to ask you another thing. Naruto tugged on his sleeve. Hiruzen looked at him curiously, urging him to go on. You see, Naruto fidgeted nervously. Last night, when those men threw their knives at me, I was suddenly able to see everything really clearly like crazy sharp. And I even saw those kunai move in slow motion to bail. Is that a normal thing all ninja have too? Naruto asked with all his innocence. Hiruzen, meanwhile, was sweating bullets on the inside. He had sealed his Sharingan last night, and made sure that no one knew about it except him. The Hyugas who were dead, and Ibiki and Enko as the Hyuga had spilled it out to them were the only ones to know. The latter duo had been sworn to secrecy, and Hiruzen trusted them enough to keep their word. How could he tell Naruto, though, that he had the almost extinct and feared Namake's bloodline and heritage coursing within him? Hiruzen wondered how to go about it without revealing too much. Well, Naruto-kun, you have a special power that is very rare and very strong, he explained to a wide-eyed Naruto. It is almost lost to the world, and you are probably the last one to ever wield it in this day and age. Before Naruto could break in a squeal of glee. But I have sealed it for the time being. Hiruzen dashed his hopes before they got too big. Naruto looked at him in surprise, but held no amount of doubt or fear in the man. Ah. He pouted. Why would you do that, Gigi? He wondered innocently. Hiruzen smiled and put a hand over his head, patting the happy boy's head for the abject faith he had in him. Because, Naruto-kun, your powers are very rare and many people on the outside as well as the inside will stop at nothing to take it from you. They might even do bad things to you for it, just like last night. That's why, I will keep it sealed until you graduate from the academy and are ready to reveal it to everyone in the world. Hiruzen told him in kind. Naruto giggled. Alright, Gigi, I trust you enough with that. But what is it? He asked curiously. Hiruzen smiled at his enthusiasm. I'm sorry, Naruto. But that's a surprise you'll find out, after I have unsealed it. Until then, you must not tell anyone about it, or I won't teach you anything about it in the future. Naruto furiously bobbed his head left and right. Speaking of surprises though, here you go. Hiruzen smiled, handing Naruto a beginner's scroll for chakra theory, and some practice kunai and shurikens for the start of his training. There's your birthday gift, Hiruzen told the boy. Use them wisely to become a great shinobi, and make me proud. Carry on the will of fire with you. My blessings are with you, child. Hiruzen pressed a palm on his head to bless him, and Naruto hugged him happily and tightly. Old man, what's the will of fire? He asked innocently, and Hiruzen smiled. Today would mark the day he would start molding Naruto into the shinobi Minato had aspired his son to be. Hiruzen wouldn't make the same mistakes he made with his previous students, he promised to himself. Well, Naruto-kun, it is a belief that the first and the second Hokage shared a belief upon which they built this village. They believed in their hearts that the true strength of a shinobi comes when they protect something precious to them. They wanted this village to be a place where people came together, putting aside their differences and lived together peacefully. Everyone would consider this village as their precious home, and protect it. That was their vision, and that is the will of fire that has made all of the Hokages the strongest shinobi in the world, and the village hidden in the leaves the strongest village. Hiruzen said in a wizened tone. Naruto hung on to his every word. If this was what made the Hokage so strong, even the fourth, then Naruto too would try and protect everyone precious to him as well. Then I too will protect everyone precious to me, and carry on the will of fire with me. Naruto jabbed a proud thumb on his chest. I will surpass all the Hokages before you, even the fourth. Just you watch, Gigi, he said, pumping his fist in the air, and Hiruzen chuckled at the boy's enthusiasm with a nod. Yes, Naruto-kun, the will of fire burns brightly in you. I have no doubt that you'll make a fine Hokage someday, and a finer man even still. Hiruzen ruffled his hair. Naruto pouted at the man, thinking he was joking, and grew even more determined from Hiruzen's laughing. But Gigi, what does it mean to be a shinobi? Naruto wondered with a finger to his lip. Hiruzen turned to the boy in surprise, throwing a leg over the other to make himself comfortable. That was a very tough question, and might even become Naruto's ideal in life. So, Hiruzen thought about it hard for a few moments, and pondered on how to go about explaining it. Naruto kept looking at him curiously, awaiting an answer. A shinobi is one who endures to achieve their goals, no matter the circumstances. He never falters down his path, and is willing to endure anything to protect what's precious to him. That is the path of a true ninja. That is what makes a shinobi so revered, in my opinion. Hiruzen explained, and Naruto looked at him oddly for a few moments before grinning stupidly with a happy nod. What do you wish to achieve in life, Naruto? Hiruzen idly wondered. It's simple, Gigi. Naruto chirped. I want to protect everyone precious to me, and surpass the fourth Hokage, he said cheerfully, and Hiruzen smiled. It seemed the former had been added just now. Hiruzen too believed in him just as Minato had once believed in his son. I believe you, Naruto. Now go to sleep, and tomorrow you can return back to the orphanage. Hiruzen patted his head. Naruto frowned. The orphanage. He mumbled uncertainly. Hiruzen looked at him, confused. Does he not want to go back to the orphanage? It was a possibility he had been foreseeing anyhow. What's wrong, Naruto? He asked dreadfully. Naruto looked at him sadly. I don't want to go back to the orphanage, Gigi. He dropped the bomb on this poor, old man's heart. It's nice living there and all, but everyone is mean to me. I don't like it there. It hurts. It hurts so much. He whispered solemnly. Hiruzen frowned, and thought about the problem. When nothing came to mind, well, sleep for now, Naruto-kun, and come to my office tomorrow morning. We'll talk about it there and try to solve your problem. Is that okay with you? He asked. Naruto smiled and nodded, hugging him. Hiruzen patted his head one last time, and tucked him in the comforters and stayed by his side until Naruto fell asleep, his exhaustion finally taking over his senses. Hiruzen smiled and left the hospital to go back to the Hokage Tower, and continue on his work paperwork. Next morning, Naruto walked to the Hokage Tower, but was sad seeing the usual cold glares he felt at the orphanage still haunting him here. He kept up a fake smile to not let anyone see his sadness, and walked through the hallways in a breeze. Just as he was about to walk past the secretary, she shouted, but Naruto kept on jogging to Hiruzen's office, paying her no mind, and with the Hokage marked name plate in view, he grinned. She caught up to him just as he was turning the doorknob and shouted, Hey, you brat! She exclaimed, Hokage-sama doesn't meet anyone without an appointment, especially things like you. She hissed venomously. Naruto ignored her, and tried walking in regardless while she ran up to him in a jiffy. Hey, Gigi! He chirped happily, and Hiruzen smiled behind his desk seeing his grandson. But the secretary came in, and started dragging Naruto out roughly by his collar. You runt! How dare you enter this office without the Hokage's permission, and call him old man? Who do you think you are? His Highness doesn't concern himself with trash like you. She snarled viciously as she continued dragging him, and Naruto kept resisting her equally stubbornly. Let go of me! Naruto whimpered softly. Stop it! Hiruzen roared, furiously slamming his palms on the table. The secretary stopped, stunned, and looked at him with frightened eyes. Hiruzen was rarely got angry. Instead he was always kind and calm like people casually made him out to be. Leave him be, he commanded gravely. Naruto is allowed to meet me at any time he wishes even without an appointment, and you better treat him like you would any other citizens of the Leaf, or I'm sure Anko would love to have coffee with you sometime. He warned menacingly. The secretary paled, stuttered out a sorry and ran out, closing the door behind her. Naruto looked at Hiruzen, confused as to who this Anko fellow was, and why was his secretary so afraid of him. He was pretty sure though that he had heard that name somewhere before, but he shrugged it off for now. Have a seat, Naruto, Hiruzen offered with his grandfatherly smile. Naruto plopped down on the couch without further ado. So, Naruto, what do you want to do now? Hiruzen said, getting straight to the point. Do you want me to find you a different orphanage? He suggested, avoiding the second outcome if possible, but his relief was short-lived. No, Gigi, Naruto shook his head. If it's possible, I would like to stay on my own from now, he said resolutely, and Hiruzen sighed. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. Naruto, it is very difficult for you to live on your own. Hiruzen tried to talk some sense into the boy's head. You are only 5 years old, and living alone will get very lonely for you, really quickly. Try out another one, it'll be better this time, I promise. He desperately tried to sway the boy's decision. I can live on my own, Gigi. Naruto chirped, sinking Hiruzen's heart along with it. The orphanage taught us how to cook, and we had to help sometimes in the household chores there too. So, I know I can take care of myself. Hiruzen tried to butt in, and anyways, no one ever wants me around there anyways, so it'll be nice to live alone, he admitted sadly. Hiruzen sighed. He did not have any counter to that argument. He had already prepared himself if something like this happened. However, he took out an envelope from his drawers, and handed it to Naruto, who took it, and instantly tore it open. The envelope contained a lot of money, and some keys in it. Naruto looked at him confused. What's this, Gigi? He asked. Those, Naruto, are the keys to your new apartment, Hiruzen explained. And with that is the money you'll use to buy the necessary supplies for your home. You'll get your money from me directly, every month, as I will visit you regularly. If you ever run out of money, then come to me directly. But do not waste any of it, all right? Hiruzen said in warning tone. Naruto nodded happily. Hiruzen smiled. If that's what it took, then Naruto could be made independent a bit sooner. Even though, he wanted him to live in the orphanage until at least 6, but it was fine if Naruto himself was happy, since the other option was always open for him as well. Let's go see your new apartment, Naruto, Hiruzen said. Naruto walked happily with Hiruzen throughout the village, and grinned as they came to the residential area of the village, all the while Hiruzen guided him by his finger. Most of the upper echelon in Hiruzen's shinobi forces lived here, and so, it was a secure and safe place for him to be in. They walked up to a big apartment complex, and kept walking up to the 5th and top floor. Hiruzen put in the key to the door, and the duo stepped in. It was a 2-bedroom, fully furnished apartment. The living room had a couch, and a table with a TV. Hiruzen showed him the kitchen with a countertop to eat on, and it also had a dining table for 4 to the side. There were 2 rooms with double beds, dresser tables, a desk and a closet. It had a single nice bathroom with a bathtub and a shower. Naruto was ecstatic that the apartment was so good to live in, and he had it all to himself. But then, he realized, he would just be alone in this big apartment, and no one would come his home anyways, as they didn't want anything to do with him. Hiruzen, seeing his depressed state, decided to cheer him up. Hey Naruto! Hiruzen called out from balcony. Come here. I'll show you a surprise and tell you why I chose this apartment for you, Hiruzen said. Naruto walked with him to the bedroom, and Hiruzen slid open a tempered glass door and walked out with Naruto in tow. As Naruto gazed out of the small balcony, his breath got caught in his throat. He had a perfect view to the Hokage monument, with the 4th's face being the closest to see. He watched Hiruzen smile at him, and rushed to hug him when the man chuckled. Old man. Not that I mind it, but isn't this apartment a bit too expensive? Naruto justly wondered. I don't think I'll be able to pay the rent, and won't there be people living nearby object to me living here? I mean, people don't really like me to bail. Hiruzen put a hand on his head. There's no one in this entire building except for a caretaker of the building who sees its maintenance, so you don't have to worry about anyone. He eased the boy's worries. And as for the rent, you don't have to pay anything, as I own this entire building. Hiruzen smiled as Naruto looked at him happily. And nodded. Well, Hiruzen had lied a bit. Actually, it belonged to Naruto himself, and Hiruzen was just its guardian for the time being. It was a property Minato had bought under the Namikaze family name, and Hiruzen had never rented it out to anyone, fearing Naruto one day might need it for himself. And boy was he glad that he had made that decision. The Namikaze family owned several properties nearby the residential district, and the shopping district apart from the clan compounds they owned in the most prominent clan grounds. The compounds were huge, and had a few houses along with the clan head's house alongside open grounds. The Namikaze were relatively small in their primes, but a rich, highly knowledgeable, and respected family nonetheless. Their libraries were bigger than even the daimyos and the Sarutobis, and still held their vast knowledge accumulated over the years. Hiruzen was safe keeping it for now, keeping it well maintained until he handed it all to Naruto. The bank accounts were also flourishing from their properties and investments, and with no one to use them, they were promptly collecting dust. That's how he was paying Naruto his monthly stipend and fees to the orphanage, mind you. Minato had left everything to Naruto, but Hiruzen had to make sure that the boy valued things and never got arrogant with all the material things being showered over him to do as he pleased. Hiruzen had promised Minato as such, and he would make sure to keep it intact. Well, Naruto, Hiruzen murmured with a nudge to Naruto's shoulders. Do you like it? He asked slyly. Naruto jumped at Hiruzen almost instantly, and wrapped his arms around his neck, burying his face in it while Hiruzen caught him in his arms with a chuckle. Thanks, Gigi. I love you, Naruto whispered so softly that Hiruzen had almost missed it. You are one of my precious people that I wish to protect Tobeo, Naruto said honestly. Hiruzen smiled as he placed him down on the ground. You know that I love you as well, and that you are my grandson in everything but blood, don't you, Naruto? He asked. Naruto wiped his wet cheeks and nodded with a tearful smile. Hiruzen ruffled his hair, and the boy giggled as Hiruzen took his small hand in his own, and both started walking towards the door to exit the apartment. Hiruzen locked it behind him, and took Naruto's hand again as he started walking with him through the streets. Everyone was staring as expected, and were rightfully wondering why the Hokage paid so much attention to the demon brat. But not a single one had the courage to walk up and ask Hiruzen and Naruto that to their faces. Naruto, wondering where they were going, decided to ask Hiruzen up front. Where are we going? He asked with a tilt of his head. Hiruzen smiled. Well, you do wish to be a shinobi, he remarked offhandedly. Don't you, Naruto? Naruto nodded. Then you would need the equipment to train properly, and will also be in need of some clothes as you will now live independently from here on out. The ninja equipment we use is expensive for you to afford on a monthly stipend, as big as it might be. Hiruzen murmured the last part to himself. Shaking his head, you would need advice on what to use, and what not to use as you keep growing up and increase your training. I am taking you to an old friend of mine who owns the biggest shop of shinobi equipment in Leaf where you can go and buy stuff. I will fund your equipment personally till you become a genin. Naruto's childlike eyes made Hiruzen grin playfully. Since we can't hamper the growth of a shinobi who will one day surpass the fourth Hokage now, can we? He questioned equally playfully. Naruto grinned. Of course you can, Tobeo. He pumped up jovially. I'll definitely surpass the fourth, and become an awesome shinobi, he said enthusiastically. Hiruzen chuckled as the hoardings to the store came in sight. It was aptly named the White Dragon. Coming inside, Naruto looked on shelf after shelf, amazed at the weapons lined up on the walls in stacks and rows. He ran off in a hurry, gazing at every little weapon with metaphoric stars in his eyes. Hiruzen smiled and held him from reaching out for a broadsword twice the size of his own and laughed at Naruto's pout. Watching the weapons had never been this fun, he thought as they duel walked up to the counter. There was a tall and large overly muscled man standing there, flicking away on a magazine. Both elders smiled at each other. It's been a long time. Hasn't it, Haru? Hiruzen whispered nostalgically. Haru nodded. It sure has, Sarutobi. And I see you've brought me a new permanent customer to make up for it. He pointed to a wide-eyed Naruto staring at the swords section in childish awe. Hiruzen chuckled. Yes. Indeed, Naruto-kun here will be coming to you from now on for his books and equipment. Hiruzen pushed a slip to Haru. As I know, you do understand that he won't exactly be welcome in the public library. Hiruzen muttered bitterly. Haru nodded, gazing sadly at the boy. He trusted the fourth skills in sealing enough, and knew the boy was no Kyuubi, he was merely the container. He has started living independently at a complex nearby, and I want you to help him get things he wishes to learn or the things he might come to need for his training. Hiruzen stamped the seal on Haru's register to start a new tab. Haru nodded. Hiruzen, you do realize that it would be too expensive for an orphan living on a monthly stipend to afford things in my shop, right? He asked without an ounce of patronizing in his tone. He can't buy everything he needs from here like the children of elite clans, or kids with civilian merchants' parents can. You know that, and yet you show him such high hopes? He wondered what the sly old coot was playing or smoking at. Hiruzen turned to him with a smirk. Let me take care of the money. Put everything he buys on that account, and let him buy whatever he needs. I'll take care of it, he said off the cuff, handing him the Namake's family account details. Haru took the details in, and his eyes went wide in seeing the initials. Haru gazed at Naruto, then to Hiruzen, and then back to the paper. He repeated it 2 times, all the while Hiruzen watched him with an amused smile. Mere moments later, a fond smile broke free from his shock, and Haru chuckled. Hiruzen looked at him, confused. Now I see why the fourth chose him to carry the burden. But why is he still here? Haru asked, putting 2 and 2 together. Did his so-called family abandon him? It wasn't out of the realms of possibility for a family to abandon a Jinchuriki, and Hiruzen's sad nod only made Haru wince. Haru was one of the few people that Minato had once trusted personally. The trio had forged a strong bond during the Third Great Shinobi War and its following events. He trusted him with his heritage, and knew he won't tell a soul unless he told him to do so. They too viewed him as a demon, and blamed Minato's death on him. Minato made me promise to take care of Naruto, and guide him to become a great shinobi. I'll honor his last wish even if it's the last thing I do. Hiruzen said with steel in his voice, and Haru nodded. Does he know? Haru asked, and Hiruzen shook his head in negative. Haru looked at him questionably. Minato left me specific instructions on when to reveal the truth to Naruto, and I intend do it myself when he's ready. Hiruzen told him. Haru smiled. Don't worry, Sarutobi. His secret is safe with me, he assured Hiruzen. Minato was a dear friend of mine, and his legacy deserves to live on. I'll help Naruto with everything I can. Don't worry, I'll guide him good, Haru promised. Hiruzen nodded, smiling as both walked towards the little excited ball of sunshine hopping along the shelved lines. So, little one. Let's get you some clothes now, shall we? Haru clapped. Naruto broke out of his trance in awe and nodded chirpily. They walked him into the changing room with stacks of clothes, and in the end, agreed on 3 shirts. Each with a lightning bolt concealed in a circle on its back. Naruto took an off-white, blood-red, and a lacquer black t-shirt with him alongside matching black pants and black shinobi sandals. His insistence on getting some cool orange clothes had been put down pretty quickly by them both. Hiruzen and Haru looked on with smiles as they saw him seeing himself happily changing from his clothes and trying them on in front of the vanity mirror. That symbol looks good on him, doesn't it? Haru whispered out of Naruto's earshot. Hiruzen could do nothing more than nod. That was the symbol of the Namikaze clan, and no one really remembered it now since the clan members dwindled down to really few in number, and even fewer wore it. It was forgotten by nearly everyone except a select few who had been to the Namikaze clan compounds personally where the symbols were engraved everywhere. The Namikaze clan were exceptionally skilled at sealing, second only to the Uzumaki in their heyday, and were specialists in speed-based taijutsu and lightning-based ninjutsu. Thus, their symbol marked a sealed bolt. Both elderly men were glad to see someone don the Namikaze symbol again with pride after nearly a generation. Minato always wore the symbol somewhere on him, somewhere it wasn't very visible to keep it under wraps from prying eyes. Maybe Naruto will make everyone remember the Namikaze symbol again? Hiruzen thought as they checked everything out, and the bill was added to the accounts. Hiruzen took Naruto to the nearby departmental store, and bought him his basic supplies like meat, bread, milk, and the rest. The people at the store glared at Naruto, but did nothing as Hiruzen was there with him, and the neighbors themselves were furious when they learned that he would be staying in the nearby apartment complex from now on. Hiruzen warned them of his laws after sending Naruto into the store to get some more things, and told them to treat him as they would anyone else lest the A&B report to him otherwise and Hiruzen be forced at the closing of the store. The people at the store had paled, and said he was welcome here 24/7 and that they won't do anything to him. Hiruzen had nodded his pleasantries and left with Naruto to go back to his apartment. Alright, Naruto, Hiruzen sighed as the sun began dipping into the horizon. You are on your own from now on and will live independently. You can go to that department store earlier to get your supplies, and Haru-san will help you with anything related to your shinobi equipment or requirements. Come to me if you need anything else, and I shall see to it that it gets done. Hiruzen knelt down to wrap Naruto in a tight embrace. Thank you, old man. Naruto whispered honestly. This means a lot to me, thanks. He thanked him again. Hiruzen smiled and patted his head as he took his leave. Watching happiness return to Naruto's eyes had been endearing. He deserved so much more. Hiruzen knew the council would raise hell over his absence tomorrow, but he could care less about what they said right now. Naruto was living with what his father left for him to inherit. They could do nothing as no one other than Hiruzen himself knew what became of the Namikaze family accounts and of its properties. He had kept everything they owned a secret to keep those fools from his old team, and those leeches from the civilian council away from sniffing around too much around it. All they knew was that he was keeping watch on it until someone claimed it, which in their minds would be inherited by the so-called Uzumaki princesses of the leaf after they returned. And Hiruzen intended to keep them under that illusion right until he revealed everything about Naruto to the world. They had put their noses in others' issues for far too long, and now he would be the one pulling them around in a circle by their ears, were Hiruzen's thoughts as he returned back to his duties at the Hokage office. Don't you worry, Minato. I'll make sure that your son gets the things you wanted him to inherit even if I have to pull out some lies and deception within the council itself. Your son will be fine, I'll make sure of it, and you can rest in peace, old friend. Hiruzen thought. The orange skies made Hiruzen think that some orange in Naruto's wardrobe might not be such a bad thing, after all. Naruto's apartment. It had been a year since Hiruzen had allowed Naruto to live in his own apartment, and so far, all had gone well. Beams of light trickled through his windows at dawn, making Naruto's face scrunch up as he was forced to wake up with a groan. This outgoing year had turned out to be a decent one for the blonde. He had come to love living in his new house, a place where he didn't have to turn a blind eye to the insults of his wardens, made him happy. But the inherent need of home-cooked meals had persuaded him to learn some cooking from the cookbooks Hiruzen had bought for him. Hiruzen's constant nagging that he couldn't last off on ramen and pork cutlet bowls from Ichiraku's cereal and milk his whole life had turned out to be pretty accurate. It was frightening how quickly food for the gods turned stale after continual consumption. Naruto had protested at first, sure, and Hiruzen had conceded that he could indeed live off of ramen his whole life if he wanted to grow up to be a midget, that is, and that had shut Naruto's mouth pretty quickly. After a few destroyed utensils, some burnt pre-cooked dinners, and easy-to-make meals, Naruto was proud to admit that he had now reached a point where he could make averagely delectable food and had given him a pat on the back to himself when Hiruzen had told him that his cooking skills were improving pretty rapidly after a nice, warm dinner one night. Speaking of improvements, right after Hiruzen had shown Naruto to the shinobi store, the boy had managed to scour out a few interesting books with Haru's help and had even unlocked his chakra on his own after trying, meditating and failing for a week until he had finally unlocked it. He had quickly managed to become a favorite customer at the White Dragon shop, and just as Hiruzen had so predicted, Naruto had forged a good bond with the shop owner, Haru, that was now nearly impossible to break. Haru always helped him find rare books on various shinobi subjects to get him started on any subjects Naruto found interesting, and even threw in various books for beginners on stealth, trap making, chakra theory, basic chakra control, kanji, calligraphy and various other shinobi books with detailed accounts of war from his own pocket. Haru and Hiruzen had been shocked beyond all belief when Naruto had started taking a liking to the revered art of sealing. Hiruzen had shown him the basics of sealing arts at first, where the boy had been shown some primitive explosive tags and storage scrolls as an example, and Naruto had been fascinated by the art ever since. Hiruzen was nearly jumping for joy on the inside that Naruto was following in the footsteps of his forefathers, and had been more than happy to introduce him to the finer arts of Fuinjutsu. Hiruzen had instructed Naruto to start off with improving his handwriting with some kanji, and had even bought him a basic calligraphy kit and various other books on calligraphy, a few scrolls on the basics and foundations of the sealing arts, and its historic importance. Hiruzen had even managed to secretly smuggle in a book written by Namake's Minato himself, a book that the Minato had once wished to make published for those who were interested in pursuing the art of sealing but never got around doing it due to its faux intricate nature. The journal had stayed with Hiruzen all this time, collecting dust in his bookshelf. He had decided to give it to Naruto as a memoir to his idol/father, and when Naruto had seen the index signed by the fourth Hokage himself, and all his handwritten manuscripts for the unpublished book that went along with it, it had come to be one of Naruto's most prized possessions. Naruto had become even more captivated with the extinct and forgotten art after learning that his idol, the fourth Hokage, was one of the greatest seal masters this world had ever seen, outdone only by the likes of some ancient Uzumaki seal masters. Haru had introduced Naruto to the Academy's curriculum. It mostly contained theory about the history of some major shinobi villages and the strategies that had been used by shinobi in the previous great wars. It was only logical that they had to learn it, so that they could think of similar ways to devise corresponding strategies in future wars. The next 3 years, Haru had told him, would be focused on perfecting the art of molding his chakra, some physical conditioning, basic chakra control, hand seals, and to fine-tune the Academy's basic 3 ninjutsu coupled with the Academy's basic taijutsu stances. Naruto had asked if it was enough to learn just the 3 basic Academy ninjutsu and graduate the Academy earlier to take on some missions and garner experience, but his idea had been quick to shut down. Haru had adamantly told him that most of the students learned some more jutsus from their clans, and that most of the civilian students' parents hired personal tutors for them to learn a couple of effective jutsus, and to help them hone their basics before they graduated the academy. Naruto knew that no one would want to train him personally, and since he didn't have any family, he would be on his own for the greater part of his life. That last part hurt him a little more than he liked admitting, but he didn't dwell on it for long, as the thought of entering the academy on the next day was now exciting his mind beyond all measures. Today, meanwhile, Naruto was walking back to his apartment after getting himself some new sets of books and scrolls for the academy curriculum that had been issued to him by Hiruzen himself. Naruto was ecstatic for tomorrow at the thought that maybe, just maybe, he might even manage to make himself some new friends and not be lonely anymore. He had been living a peaceful life ever since he had left the orphanage, sure, but the one thing that his heart still craved for was some friends. None of the clans let him enter their compounds and threw him out if he ever crossed their boundaries by mistake. A couple of times, the clan members had even beaten him a little before the ANBU had arrived on scene and restricted them for their felony. Naruto never went near any of clan grounds ever since. The civilian parents in the park never let their children come near him, and even told them that he was a bad child and to stay away from him. It hurt Naruto deeply to be in such a large village yet remain so lonely, but maybe tomorrow, if he could make a few friends and have someone his age come over to his house, play, talk, hang out, and have someone else other than the Hiruzen, Haru and the Ichiraku's family to verbalize to, he won't be lonely. He was walking down the streets after the sun had set, and was going to his apartment, while ignoring the glares they shot his way. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Naruto was pulled into an alley, and he fell down on his back. Regaining his bearings, Naruto saw 3 people donning the Leaf's forehead protectors and flak jackets surrounding his way out the alley. Naruto's stomach dropped in dread when they pulled out kunai knives at him, and their smiles were downright evil. He had shivers running down his spine in fright at the vulnerable situation he found himself in. Naruto got up, and dashed through an opening, zigzagging his way down the alleyways while the 3 men followed hot on his tail. Naruto knew they could have caught him by now if they so desired, being trained shinobi and all, but were probably enjoying the thrill of the chase. They were giving him some time, at the very least. Naruto tried to run even quicker when the men chuckled right behind him, apparently amused from his lame attempts at escaping them. Naruto suddenly came to an abrupt stop when he saw the alley come to an end, and all he had ahead of him was a wall, a dead end. Naruto turned around just as the men turned around the corner, and took a step back, then another, and another when his back hit the wall. The shinobi began laughing at his miserable face when Naruto's back hit the wall, and his eyes misted over with unshed tears. A lone tear rolled down his cheek when the men took out shurikens, not the practice one he was used to seeing, but the real deal. Without any hesitation or remorse, they chucked a volley of them towards him. 2 shurikens lodged themselves in his right thigh and 1 in his left, another once in each of his forearms, and a vicious scream in agony tore through his throat. Naruto fell down to his knees, whimpering in pain while they laughed at his misery. How the mighty have fallen, one of them taunted. So, how does it feel to bear the pain that you inflicted on so many other humans, QB? We know that we can't kill you or you'll regain your strength and be free off your bonds. But we can torture your vessel and break you from the inside out. Don't worry, you'll soon be numb from the pleasure we'll inflict upon you. Why? Naruto whimpered dizzily. Why do you people keep doing this to me? What have I ever done to you? What did you say, QB? They sneered furiously. You killed so many of our villagers, and now you have the gall to ask what you did? And to top it all off, you have the guts to join the academy to regain your strength? We'll make this a night to remember. As soon as those words were said, Naruto curled up into a ball and prepared himself for the pain he knew was coming. No one noticed his cerulean blue pools bleed red when they were beating, kicking and stabbing him on all his non-fatal points. Naruto didn't know how long it continued for as his body grew number, and his whimpers turned incoherent, all the while pleading if someone would save him. At the Hokage office, Hiruzen, having gone through a long council meeting, the point of which he still had trouble comprehending, was annoyed at being pointlessly held back for so long. They were arguing and asking pointless things off of him that, in his honest opinion, were beyond ridiculous. Moreover, he still had to go and complete all the pending paperwork that must have piled up on his desk in his absence. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair as his back hit the leather of his chair. He inked his brush and started scribbling away at the stack of folders. He must have been at it for hours since the sun was beginning to set in the horizon, Hiruzen realized tiredly. The thought of not being able to go see Naruto for congratulating the boy on making the cut for the academy saddened him. But he promised himself that tomorrow, at Ichiraku's, he would treat the boy and listen to all his babbles for the entire evening. Hiruzen had just about finished on his train of thoughts when Kakashi came striding in the door, an act that made Hiruzen grow a bit confused. Mission accomplished, Hokage-sama. Kakashi sighed lazily, further confusing Sarutobi. What mission is that, Kakashi? He questioned as if the masked Jonin had grown a second head. I don't remember assigning you any missions. Weren't you supposed to be watching over Naruto tonight? He asked with a hint of worry while Kakashi looked at him perplexed. But Hokage-sama, the elders sent 2 ANBU saying you were busy in a meeting. Hiruzen blinked, caught off guard. Plus, this mission required my immediate attention. They even told me that they had assigned someone else to watch over Naruto while I was away. Hiruzen gulped thickly. Kakashi, I never issued any missions of importance that might have need of your specific skill set today, he admitted with a dry throat. And as for the council meeting, it was a useless gathering of civilians that really had no point in me attending. What was this mission you were on anyways? He asked dismally. I was told to watch a specific part of the village wall. There had been a possibility for a breach of security, but it was most likely a fluke, as everything was fine according to the barrier team. Coincidentally, there was no point in me tending to the mission as well. Kakashi's words furthered Hiruzen's worries. Hiruzen's and Kakashi's minds simultaneously began connecting dots. The useless council meeting summoned by the elders and the civilian council, Kakashi's fake mission, absolutely no breach in security, the ANBU detail. Hiruzen stood up. Kakashi, his voice turned desperate. Please tell me that you made sure someone was assigned to protect Naruto while you were gone, didn't you? He asked uncertainly. Kakashi mechanically shook his head, his lone eye widening as he too finished connecting the dots. Hurriedly, Hiruzen took out his crystal ball and desperately tried to locate Naruto. A few moments later, the crystal all locked onto his signature, and an image became clear. Hiruzen's blood ran cold. He stood up abruptly as 3 ANBU came in front of his desk and Kakashi stood by their sides, all 4 looking ready for the kill. Hiruzen vanished in a tempest of flames, everyone else followed suit and rushed in the same direction with only one thought in mind. Let us make it in time. Meanwhile, in the alleyway, it must have at least 4 hours since his torture began, and the beating was still going on. Naruto's body had fallen completely numb a while ago, and the numbness kept increasing as the pain was finally becoming too much for him bear. But Naruto was being forced to remain conscious, since the attacks being inflicted on him weren't allowing him to fall unconscious. The attackers were now getting pretty tired and annoyed as well. Hey, one of them heaved. He's hurt and everything, but not broken like we were ordered to. What should we do? One of them asked as another one of them smirked. I have an idea, he suggested. After this, the QB will have a hard time staying sane, much less become a threat to the village. He promised. The other 2 looked at him, intrigued as he started to tear apart the little blonde bundle's clothes in tatters. The others got the gist of what he was about to do and smirked themselves. Naruto, meanwhile, mutely whimpered as his clothes were torn apart, and he tried to think just what it was that they were planning to do with him. Was there even something that could be worse than this? Finally, when he was in nothing but his undergarments, the man who had suggested this plan started to undo his pants. Naruto clenched his eyes shut and wordlessly waited for whatever pain was about to come. This was the scene Hiruzen, Kakashi, and the ANBU walked into. They all had their eyes widened at what the perpetrators were thinking of doing to the boy, and when they heard the 2 men standing on the side, laughing, Hiruzen lost it. He threw a kunai at the man who was undoing his pants jugular, who dropped dead without a sound while the 2 others fell to their knees from the killing intent he unleashed. They were terrified at being caught, sure, but were thinking of the consequences that it would lead them to. Boo! Hiruzen barked. The three ANBU behind him stiffened. Orders, Hokage-sama? Take these bastards to Ibiki. Tell him everything that has occurred in the alley, word for word, and tell him that he has a week to play with them as he sees fit. Especially tell Enko what they were about to do. I'll talk to them later when they are done getting details out of them, and then I will plan their most painful execution, personally, and have them disgraced in front of the whole shinobi forces before being sentenced. Dismissed, he bellowed, and the ANBU took the two alive, whimpering, and begging shinobi away. Kakashi burned the corpse right then and there, and the both of them walked over to Naruto slowly and steadily so as to not alarm the frightened boy who had tucked himself in a corner to get out of harm's way. He was curled up in a tiny ball, holding the two kunai knives he had pulled out of his own thighs, both of which bled profusely. He was shaking, trembling in fear, but he kept a little guard up. The thing that surprised the Kakashi the most were Naruto's eyes. His usual deep blue cerulean pools now bled red as two tomos circled in his right eye and a single one in his left. Naruto barely managed croaked out some words, his body still trembling uncontrollably. Don't come any closer, he warned them as he kept up his shaking hands pointed at Hiruzen threateningly. Tears streamed down Hiruzen's own cheeks as he focused his attention on the terrified child. The shock of his unsealed eyes was nothing to Hiruzen at the moment compared to the iciness in the frightened words he just heard. Hiruzen continued walking closer, slowly with his hands up, while Kakashi held himself back, not wanting to scare the child even more than he already was. It's all right, Naruto, Hiruzen cooed softly. No one is going to hurt you anymore. It's me, your old man. Don't you remember me, Naruto-kun? He asked soothingly. Naruto cried even harder, his kunai still held up in front of him. Please don't hurt me, Naruto sniffled. I'll go, and I'll never come back. Just, please don't hit me anymore. It hurts too much. Please leave me alone. I want to die and go see my father the old man told me about. He watches over me from above. Please go, I'll kill myself, I promise. Please don't hurt me anymore, he choked out. Involuntary tears flowed through the adults' faces at hearing what the boy had just admitted. It was too much for Hiruzen's heart seeing the amount of trauma Naruto was presently under. It was so much that he wasn't even recognizing him. Hiruzen moved like lightning when Naruto pulled the kunai to his throat and snatched it away in a single, slick motion. The kunai was discarded aside and Hiruzen wrapped his arms around the boy, who struggled coarsely at first, but then hugged him back when Hiruzen's familiar, welcoming scent hit his nose and he cried in his chest. Shoo! Hiruzen hushed the boy. It's alright, Naruto, you're fine. I'll take care of everything, you'll be better in no time, now calm down. He whispered comfortingly and smiled when the boy's crying trickled down, and he finally fell unconscious from sheer exhaustion. Hiruzen stood up with the boy in his arms, turning to Kakashi, he nodded and both vanished in a tempest of leaves. Konoha Hospital. The duo arrived at the hospital, and Hiruzen instantly ordered his best medics to treat Naruto. They took him from a hesitant Hiruzen's arms to the operation theater, and made Hiruzen sit outside. Sarutobi sighed wearily as his mind went through the flurry of events that had occurred this night, and the only way something of this magnitude was possible was if the council had planned everything out in advance. There had been far too many coincidences taking place tonight, and he knew that they wouldn't have left any proof behind. Hiruzen couldn't help but be furious that they had the gall to go behind his back in a manner such as this just to hurt Naruto, and the fact that even his own shinobi were a part of it was sickening him to the core. He was broken out of his thoughts, however, as Kakashi decided to make his presence known. Hokage-sama, I would like to adopt Naruto, Kakashi humbly requested. Hiruzen's eyes widened momentarily before they hardened. No, he denied and raised his hand when the Jonin tried to protest. You had your chance when I requested that either you or Jiraiya take his custody all those years ago. The last thing this boy needs right now is your hapless pity, an emotion that would haunt him of this incident again, and again, and again. Kakashi bowed his head shamefully. Plus, when Naruto learns the truth about his family, and your connection to it, it'll tear him apart, and I won't let that happen. I deny your request as the Hokage. Do not utter a word on this topic any further, he warned coldly. Kakashi flinched at his accusations, but knew he couldn't argue to anything when what he was saying was, in fact, right. But, Hokage-sama, he is Sensei's legacy, Kakashi pleaded, I must protect him. Please understand, he resisted. Hiruzen's glare could have melted a glacier. I'm sorry, Kakashi, but I won't allow you, or anyone else to adopt Naruto just so that you could get rid of your own guilt. Live with the guilt that because of your cowardice, tonight, your sensei's legacy was beaten black and blue for hours on end and was almost raped, he added harshly. Kakashi held down his head in shame, and seeing Hiruzen's firm stance on Naruto, accepted that the man was unflinching to anyone as of right now. But what about his eyes? Surely you saw it too? Kakashi tried. He would need me train himself to use those eyes properly, he reasoned, trying to convince Hiruzen to at least let him stay close to the boy. Hiruzen seemed to mull over this for a moment before he answered. Yes, he conceded. Indeed, he would need you train him someday. But that day is not today, and we can't reveal those eyes to the council yet, or some of them might put two and two together. You may train him after, and if he wants to graduate from the academy now, he said, further confusing Kakashi with his words. Hiruzen shot him. And are you that stupid? Look, you don't honestly think that after this Naruto will hold the same willingness to protect the village that he did before? I sure as hell wouldn't want to protect a village that did this to me. I don't even know if he wants to have anything to do with the village, much less wants to be its shinobi right now. He sighed. Kakashi nodded solemnly, seeing his point, and kept his quiet from then on. Suddenly, the doctor came out from the OT, and the duo stood up when he walked over to them. How is he? Hiruzen questioned urgently, and his heart fell when the doctor grimaced. He is out of danger now. Both men heaved huge sighs of relief hearing this. But I must say, it is honestly a miracle that he even survived through whatever the hell he must have endured just now. All of his ribs were cracked or broken, multiple fractures on his cranium, ternary punctures and lacerations from shinobi tools, and he has bled a lot. Surprisingly, he has an unnatural healing rate, that if I had to guess is due to his tenet. It is mending his bones and muscles at an astounding rate as we speak, and the boy should be fine by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. Sighing, the doctor decided to break them the bad news, but what effects it had on him mentally is still unclear. He is conscious right now, sure, but he isn't speaking or interacting to anything at all. You can go see him if you so wish, but please don't let him do anything that might push him too much. I'd propose that you don't even talk to him, if possible, was all he said before pocketing his scalpel and walking away. Hiruzen kept his hand on the doorknob and stood still for a few seconds. Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder and squeezed, twisting it open for the man, and both he and Kakashi walked in the room. The smell of potent chemicals struck Hiruzen first, but he digressed and walked in. As soon as he did walk in, though, he wished he hadn't, because what Hiruzen saw made his heart skip a few beats. Naruto laid on his bed, covered head to toe in bandages. He was awake, but the thing that astounded Hiruzen the most were his eyes. He was gazing out the window with dead, crimson eyes, as if uncaring about anything in particular. Kakashi was the one who broke the deafening silence in the room. Naruto, he called, but did get so much as a twitch from the boy. It was as if Kakashi hadn't addressed him at all. Hiruzen breathed a shaky breath. Naruto, he tried calling the boy. Naruto's ear twitched hearing the familiar voice, the first reaction they had gotten since entering the room. Even the nurse standing beside Kakashi seemed shocked that Naruto had acknowledged Hiruzen's voice. Naruto craned his neck to look at Hiruzen, smiling. Old, he coughed viciously. Hiruzen was by his side in a flash, holding a glass of water near his chapped lips. Old man, Naruto laid his head on Hiruzen's shoulder and snuggled. Hiruzen held him as gently as he would a feather. How are you feeling, Naruto-kun? Does it still hurt right now? He asked him calmly. Naruto smiled a little faux smile and nodded. Hiruzen's heart broke seeing this. I'm so sorry, Minato. I have failed you and your son. Again. Those bastards got their claws on him before me, and took away a part of his innocence. But I swear on my name as a Sarutobi, I'll do everything in my power to get to the bottom of this. He thought. He too smiled his fake, grandfatherly smile and scooped the little boy on his lap. Naruto stiffened at first, and then returned the hug as the dam to his emotions seemed to break. He cried silent tears in Hiruzen's neck while he cooed the boy, trying to calm him down. Why do they hate me? Naruto whispered in his neck. Hiruzen grimaced. He knew this was coming. They are fools, Naruto, that's why. They don't understand what powers you hold, and the sacrifice you make each day just by breathing for this accursed village. Give them time. I promise you that they will come around. Naruto nodded slimly in his chest. But why me? He whispered again. Hiruzen sighed, and knew he would have to shell out some answers. He signaled to his ANBU, and just as they all left the room, leaving him and Kakashi, the masked man who was on the couch in a corner, all alone. That I cannot tell you, Naruto-kun. Not yet. I made a promise to your father that I will reveal everything once you became a shinobi, when you were strong enough to protect yourself. I will tell you everything once the time is right, Naruto. Do you trust me? Naruto nodded. You knew my father? Naruto asked neutrally. Hiruzen nodded with a smile. His face lit up and tears welled up in the corner of his eyes. Who was he? Will you tell me, please? Naruto asked desperately, nearly in tears. Hiruzen's will wavered hearing his pleading tone. But he knew now wasn't the time. He had to keep his promise to Minato, after all. I cannot tell you that, Naruto. I'm sorry, but you aren't ready for that information yet, and I cannot break my promise to your father. He made many enemies before he died, and they will stop at nothing to kill you if they find out who you are or if you even exist. That is why I'll reveal it to the village when the time is right. Please trust me on this, Naruto. Hiruzen whispered guiltily. Naruto cried even harder. Did he love me? He asked. Hiruzen wrapped his arms around him tightly. Yes. You meant the world to him. He wanted to make you a greater shinobi than he ever was, and even wanted to help you get your first girlfriend and walk you to the academy on your first day. He wanted to be there when you got your first regulation headband. There were so many things he told me he wanted to do with you. He wanted to live his life through you. Trust me when I say this, but I haven't seen a father as eager as him to see his son grow up. Hiruzen murmured softly. Naruto stopped crying, and a little, genuine smile lit up his face. Hiruzen didn't want to, but had to ask this. So, Naruto, do you still wish to be a shinobi? Uncertainty laced his voice. I understand if you do not wish to be one. Naruto shook his head, smiling. No, I want to be a shinobi more than ever. I want to become a strong shinobi like my father wanted me to be, and then show you I'm ready to learn his secret or protect myself from danger. Unlike today, I'll still join the academy and try to become a strong shinobi. I will get strong enough to protect myself and not feel as helpless as I was today, he softly confessed. Hiruzen smiled, proud, and nodded. All right then. Naruto, now I have to tell you something, he said seriously. Naruto looked at him curiously. Earlier tonight, possibly due to the strain and pressure you were subjected to, you reawakened your bloodline traits, he admitted gravely. Naruto looked at him, confused. What's a bloodline trait? He asked innocently. Hiruzen smiled. At least he hadn't lost all of his innocence from this incident. A bloodline trait is found in various shinobi from many prominent clans. It is passed down from generation to generation, in blood. These are special skills that cannot be learned by anyone who hasn't inherited them genetically. Hiruzen explained. What's my bloodline trait? And why did you say I reawakened it? Did I have it before? Hiruzen kept his palm on Naruto's head, petting him, and Naruto blushed in embarrassment. You, Naruto-kun, have a special visual jutsu or a dojutsu that is found in the eyes of the beholder. You hold one of the 3 great dojutsu of the world, in fact, the Sharingan. It is a rare blood limit, found only in rare members of the Uchiha clan. Seeing Naruto's wide, childlike eyes absorbing each of his words like a sponge, Hiruzen rambled into its intricacies to hold his attention to him, and make him forget the horrors he'd seen. These eyes have 2 parts. The piercing eye. This part of your eye allows you to decipher any and all genjutsu, ninjutsu and taijutsu, and copy/memorize them to the smallest detail, almost instantaneously. It even also allows you to predict an enemy's moves before he himself knows what he is going to do. Wow, that's how I was able to see the kunai. Genjutsu, or any illusions/deceptions, are almost useless against the wielder of the Sharingan, since it can see an opponent's chakra and dispel them almost instantly. The second part of the eye is the hypnotic eye. This is what allows the wielder of the Sharingan to cast genjutsu just through eye contact with his opponents. It is said that the battle is almost over as soon as an enemy gazes into the eyes of a trained Sharingan wielder. The Sharingan is believed to be this village's most feared blood limit, rivaled only by the might of the bloodline of our very own first Hokage. Even Kakashi was amazed at the amount of knowledge and insight Hiruzen had on the Sharingan for someone who either belonged to the clan nor possessed it. How do I use this Sharingan? Naruto asked. Hiruzen tapped his forehead playfully. You just channel some chakra to the back of your eyes. Go ahead, try it, he urged. Naruto did as he was told, and suddenly, his vision turned sharper than ever, and he could even see faint blue chakra lines in Hiruzen and Kakashi. But a big blue dot in Kakashi's left eye was glaring at him like a beacon. Kakashi, seeing his odd look, I smiled knowingly. Naruto left it alone since he didn't want to pry into matters that didn't bother him. Hiruzen handed him a mirror to see his blood-red eyes with 2 tomos circling in right eye and 1 in his left. Naruto pumped up chakra to his eyes and they circled even faster, so he cut off his flow and did it again, before repeating it several times. Cool, he whispered, amazed. Both adults chuckled, and Naruto had the decency to look a bit sheepish. What are these marks in my eyes? He asked. Those marks, Naruto, Kakashi started since it was his area of expertise now, are tomos. Eyes possessing the Sharingan evolve with time, and the tomo marks increase in number with each evolution. 3 means complete maturity of the eyes, he explained. Naruto nodded and cut off his chakra to deactivate the Sharingan, immediately falling face first into Hiruzen's chest, feeling lightheaded. Naruto, you must not use these eyes in front of anyone. We don't want people knowing who your parents are just yet. You can reveal it when you know everything or are in a very dangerous situation where you must require to use these eyes. Until then, please keep them a secret, or I can seal them up if you like, he suggested. Naruto shook his head, trembling, and no, I'll keep them a secret. I don't want you to seal them in case I ever need to use them, he whimpered, scared. Hiruzen nodded, rubbing his arm soothingly. All right, Naruto-kun, then you will have to go to the academy the day after tomorrow. I'll notify them of your absence due to medical problems. Now rest, all right? Hiruzen murmured and laid Naruto to bed, tucking him in. He got up to leave the room along with Kakashi and looked behind him to see Naruto already having dozed off from exhaustion. Why didn't you put the seal on him, Hokage-sama? Kakashi whispered. It would have been much safer to keep it a secret. I won't force him into anything, Kakashi, Hiruzen answered curtly. Those abilities of his eyes give him the reassurance he needs of something to fall back on if he ever finds himself in a dire situation. If they make him feel safe, then I have no right to seal them, and he is a smart enough boy to keep them a secret if he so desires, he answered offhandedly. Kakashi nodded, and said nothing else. Naruto snored peacefully that night even after all that had happened to him that night, knowing that his father loved him very much. His father wasn't just watching him from the heavens, he was seeing the world through his eyes. Naruto had his daddy's eyes. The fact that he had a loving father warmed his heart to no end. He wasn't some thrown trash, he had actually been wanted and loved at one point. Even the old man knew him, and would tell him about his dad when he was ready to know. He trusted him that much. Naruto understood that he had promised to keep it a secret for his father, and damn was he willing to keep it. He also felt safe with the fact that he had his new eyes to fall back on in case something like this happened ever again. He couldn't wait to join the academy to become strong enough to protect himself, and all those precious to him, as few and far as they might be. He'd show his dad the world through his eyes and make him proud, and maybe, just maybe, someone would like to be his friend tomorrow. That last part made his face plaster a stupid smile all through the night. Konoha Ninja Academy. Soft footsteps traversed through the corridors of the academy with admission papers in hand while blue eyes danced around the walls, door to door, in search of the designated classroom inscribed on his form. Naruto came up to the door of the classroom he was assigned to, and quickly realized that he was barely on time upon hearing the teacher already enunciating the roll calls. So, he slid the door open, entered, and closed it behind him with a gentle click. His teacher, a man with a pineapple-shaped haircut vividly complemented with a wild-looking scar running horizontally across his nose, looked at him gruffly, and his clothes were standard shonen affair too, nothing exciting as far as Naruto was concerned. Though Naruto did get a little anxious with all the curious stares his untimely presence was garnering, since, upon getting himself identified, most of them were intensifying their curiosity into outright glares. Naruto's heart fell when even his teacher looked away from him with a disgusted snort, and he quickly had to duck his head down when he handed over the papers to his teacher in order to avoid making eye contact with the man, or risk making his situation turn even worse. Iruka snatched the papers off of Naruto's palms, and scanned the forms over with critical eyes, hoping beyond hopes that there had been some sort of mistake in paperwork, and that the Hokage had not allowed the Kyuubi of all things to join his class. Alright class, Iruka sighed in defeat. There was no mistake, there is a new student joining us from today. Please introduce yourself to the class, he commanded him in an even voice. Naruto nodded, still content with digging his toe in the ground and fidgeting. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. It's a pleasure to meet you all. He bowed politely near the end, and unbeknownst to him, most of the class wasn't even listening to him except for a select few who were obliviously unbiased/uncaring towards him. His teacher identified himself as Yumino Iruka, and told him to take a seat. Naruto walked up the stairs smiling, but his smile fell when most of the students covered up the free seats beside them, and he eventually ended up stranded in a marooned corner of the classroom, right beside the window all alone. The hostile behavior of his fellow students genuinely saddened him, and Naruto eventually came to the conclusion that he won't be able to make friends with anyone anytime soon. Iruka-sensei soon began vocalizing the roll calls again, and Naruto kept watching his classroom fill up with several other children from many of the prominent clans in the village. The blonde boy kept his cool, acutely seeing everyone in his class, and objectively noticing their attitudes while his eyes scanned them over critically. The pondering once-over of his acquaintances stopped though when Iruka-sensei called the name Uchiha Satsuki, and nearly everyone along with him turned their eyes to her. She was probably the prettiest girl that Naruto had ever seen. Her voice was as soft and kind as her face, and so was her smile. Moreover, she genuinely seemed to ignore all the stares pointed at her, and proclaimed her attendance politely. But Naruto kept looking at her even when the rest turned to their own devices, absolutely smitten by the feeling of camaraderie bubbling up in his chest. She was making a presence that the blonde just couldn't manage to shake off, and the fact that they had something in common gave him hope. Satsuki, meanwhile, wore a blue crop top coupled with a white skirt, and blue shinobi sandals. Her hair long, black and shiny were tied up in a high ponytail with a matching blue ribbon, and the only stain her porcelain white skin seemed to exhibit was a faint coloring to her cheeks. The most striking feature she had, however, had to be her deep onyx eyes. Naruto knew now that she was from the Uchiha clan, and that she too might have the same special eyes as him, if what Hiruzen had told him was, indeed, right. As such, they had something in common, which meant he had something to talk to her about. Iruka excused himself for a moment, and stepped outside the class to submit his attendance register in the staff room, and nearly everyone in his class shot themselves at Satsuki, trying to make her talk to them and get her to be their friend. Naruto wanted to go and talk to her pretty boastfully as well, since she seemed like a genuinely nice and friendly girl, but he knew that she wouldn't even want to see his face, let alone make friends with him if the earlier reaction other students had exhibited to his presence were anything to go by, that is. Naruto could interpret the reason for Satsuki's popularity pretty easily as well. She was the younger daughter to the main family of the Uchiha clan, essentially a princess to the entirety of the Fire Nation. It was only natural for all common folk to flock near her. Not like it mattered to him any. She could be pretty and popular for all he cared. Naruto couldn't care less. He didn't like at all. He was perfectly fine. Even if she was the prettiest girl he had ever seen. Naruto grumbled to himself, and tried to clear his mind by gazing out the window. He never even saw her walk up to him, not even when she took an empty seat beside him, or the annoyed look she had plastered on her nose seeing his stupidly oblivious face. Uchiha Satsuki, she finally caved and called for his attention. Naruto faltered, stunned that the most popular girl in his class, and possibly the entire academy, had made first contact with him. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, he greeted cautiously. Satsuki looked at him calculatingly, as if trying to figure him out like a puzzle. She tucked a loose lock of hair behind her ear after a few moments, eyes shying away from him, you were staring pretty intently at me before, she admitted softly, her cheeks coloring. Naruto's eyes widened considerably, and he frantically waved his hands in self-defense. It's not like that, he rationalized. I just heard that you were an Uchiha and all. Naruto's voice trailed off when Satsuki's eyes narrowed in dangerously on him. So? She asked. Naruto gulped, confused by her rising temper. I was just wondering. What? Satsuki demanded testily. Is he one of those gold diggers Itachi told me about too? She wondered. Naruto hesitated, and motioned for her to lean a bit closer. Satsuki looked at him oddly, but did as he told and gave him her ear. Do you have the Sharingan? He asked curiously. Satsuki turned to face him and blinked. What? You know, Naruto stressed seriously, the blood-red eyes, black tomos. Satsuki flushed. I know what it is. Then do you? No, Satsuki interjected, annoyed. It only awakens in a select few, and way ahead in life. Except for a select few, was what she didn't want to admit. Ah. Naruto pouted, his face marring his disappointment. Satsuki frowned. That sucks, he sighed wearily. Naruto plopped his cheek in his palm, and started whistling away at the birds perched outside his window. They seemed to respond back to him as well. Satsuki giggled. You're weird. She chortled cutely. Satsuki could see that he wasn't like the others in her class, and honestly didn't care for her clan name or for her status. His intense staring had surprised her at first, even forced her to blush since no one had ever looked at her so intently before. She had never seen anyone look so absorbed in something other than her brother, Itachi. This idiot even had that same look in his eyes like her Nissan, as if he was trying to piece something together that the rest of the world just couldn't see and that made him ludicrously cool in her books. Uchiha Satsuki, she properly introduced herself. Again. Pleasure to meet you. She held out her hand for him to take, and Naruto shook it with a foxy grin that made her smile. You introduced yourself earlier. But whatever, he chuckled. Wanna be friends? Naruto offered excitedly. It was worth a shot. Satsuki smiled ear to ear. Sure. She mirrored his grin. Unbeknownst to the bickering couple sitting in the corner, their entire class looked scandalized. Every last one of them had been trying as they might to befriend Satsuki over the past couple of days, and had gotten ignored. Berated peskier ones were even beaten to the ground by said Uchiha. And now, she had just gone up the stairs herself and accepted Naruto's offer for friendship with a smile. Ridiculous. Haruno Sakura was the first one to break out of her stupor and voice her thoughts. Hey, Satsuki-chan. What are you doing with him? Her loud voice nauseated Satsuki. My mom says he is a bad influence on us. You shouldn't stay around him for too long. You might even catch something. She laughed near the end, and most of the students nodded their heads agreements. Naruto ducked his head down dolefully, knowing full well that Satsuki too would just leave him be, and realized that this friendship wasn't worth the trouble his presence came bundled with. Yeah. Another one added salt to his already wounded self-dignity. My mom said that he is just a worthless, clanless loser. He's such a loser, that even his own parents abandoned him at birth. I mean, how lame is that? An heiress like yourself shouldn't be concerned with the likes of him. The boy in question had 2 red tattoos on his cheek. His feral looks flared arrogantly, and he grinned widely to display his fangs as an act of poorly sought intimidation. Naruto said nothing, but his fists clenched tightly on his lap. It wasn't like he hadn't heard those things before, more or less, or that they didn't make him angry. It was just that, picking fights with everyone who crossed his path would get him nowhere. He would be fighting them all day. They weren't worth it, he told himself. Satsuki didn't share the same humility he did though. Well, she snapped. At least he isn't an annoying idiot like you are, and he doesn't want to be friends with me just for my clan status. Forehead, dog breath. She bit right back, and the whole class laughed at their implied names. Naruto sat doe-eyed. Satsuki had defended him, and not belittled him like everyone else. Iruka took it as his cue to enter the class, and everyone was forced to go back to their seats. Naruto, though, was smiling throughout the lectures for the entire day. His heart warmed up in realization that there was at least someone who didn't judge him. Plus, he had a pretty female friend now. How cool was that? The rest of the day went by normally without any problems, that is, until Satsuki had apologized for leaving early by saying that her brother had some private training planned for her, and Naruto, not wanting to appear extra clingy or anything, had bid his goodbyes to her and gone on home with an extra bounce to his feet. His dream had finally come to fruition. Naruto had made himself a friend. His smile on the way back home could have lit entire cities for weeks. Time skip 1 year. Naruto couldn't help but notice that everyone in the village had been a bit quiet as of late. Even Satsuki had been absent from the academy for the entire week, and that girl resented staying home even when she was struck down with a cold or a fever. He wanted to go and check up on her, but he wasn't permitted to enter any of the village's clan compounds without prior permissions, especially since Hiruzen had warned him not to roam about the Uchiha clan compounds any more than what was absolutely necessary. His past experiences with other clan members made him put the Uchiha on the top of his not-to-visit list. Naruto had eventually decided that if Satsuki didn't show up at the academy today either, then he would sneak into the Uchiha clan compounds to go and check up on her by hook or by crook. Over the year, they had developed a great friendship rivalry in Satsuki's case. Since she was at the top of the class in everything while he was just average, Their rivalry was indeed a weird one. The teachers had been sabotaging Naruto's results to mold him into an average student in favor of letting the Kyuubi get on top, and Satsuki never hung out with him after the academy was over, since her father didn't want her associating with anyone outside the clan for too long. Even though the man didn't hold anything against Naruto personally, Naruto knew there was more to it than that. Even Hiruzen always dodged his questions whenever he barreled the man for the oddly intense curiosity Sarutobi seemed to have about his whereabouts whenever Naruto so much as walked the walls surrounding the Uchiha clan compounds. Naruto had even managed to meet her brother a few times, and quickly come to realize that Itachi was apparently one of the greatest prodigies their village had ever produced, the boy's accomplishments right up there with the likes of his beloved fourth Hokage. Itachi was drafted as the village's youngest ANBU captain, ever. He had even helped Naruto and Satsuki a couple of times with their shurikenjutsu, and boy was he good at aiming. Itachi had been the one to initially nudge Satsuki to forge a rivalry with Naruto. According to Itachi, she would benefit greatly in the coming years by it, and Satsuki, being Satsuki, had taken to her brother's words like a dry sponge did to water. The girl challenged him to absolutely everything they did. She even challenged Naruto to race eating times on occasions. Naruto lost nearly every one of those matches except when the competition came down to eating ramen. Satsuki was quite a glutton when it came to anything spicy. The blonde had come to realize, Naruto, though, was confident enough to beat even an Akimichi if it came down to eating ramen, and so his record stood undefeated in that particular contest. Satsuki had vowed never to treat Naruto to Ichiraku's ramen after burning through her entire month's allowance in a mere hour on the celebration of her birthday treat. Itachi didn't seem to mind if his sister spent a majority of her time with Naruto. It was enough for him that she associated with him at dinner sometimes, and that was all the elder brother ever wished for from his baby sister. The streets today were naturally desolate since Naruto always walked early to the academy to keep himself away from the glares of the villagers, and just as usual, the boy entered the academy and went straight for his classroom to catch up on deciphering his sealing journal. Naruto walked up to the corner he always sat in, and saw Satsuki already present and accounted for, contently gazing out the window. He grinned. She was all right. His heart skipped a beat, and he breathed a sigh of relief. The blonde lit up like a lamp not a second later. Morning, Satsuki-chan. He chirped. She didn't reply, and just kept gazing out the window. Naruto grew confused by her ignorance, and was about to greet her again when some other children walked in. He saw all the looks of pity they were giving her, and words died down in his throat when he saw that Satsuki was trying her best to ignore them like the plague. Naruto grew a little worried at her odd behavior. Satsuki-chan, he whispered. He plucked out his journal and began to read. Pretending was more like it, what, with his eyes constantly flickering sideways to look at the stone-faced girl sitting by his side. Hey! One of his classmates' voice drew Naruto's attention. Did you hear what happened to her? One of them whispered. Usually, Naruto never paid any attention to gossip, but this time, he did. Not really, his accomplice replied. Listen, the first one gossiped excitedly. I heard that her whole clan was wiped out, and that she is the only survivor. Isn't that horrible? For all the condolence he was trying to portray, the boy didn't seem the least bit remorseful to Naruto. Instead, they seemed overjoyed at the aspect of having something cool to gossip about. Talk about being desperate for attention. That's so tragic. His accomplice squealed mournfully. Realization struck Naruto a moment later, and his eyes widened in horror. He turned to Satsuki with a start, who still seemed too engrossed in gazing out the window. The hand that wasn't supporting her cheek was balled up into a tight fist from hearing all the gossip. Naruto decided to say nothing. Pity was the last thing she needed, and kept himself quiet. He kept his hand on her tightly wound fist, and squeezed it reassuringly, not once making eye contact with her in fear of offering her a pitying look. She seemed to have appreciated his gesture since her fist loosened up and she didn't push his hand away, and Naruto droned out his mind on sealing to pass his time. He couldn't concentrate on it in the slightest though. The lectures came and went, and time kept passing by as Naruto tried in between breaks to speak to Satsuki, but she never replied to anything he said. All he managed to squeeze out from her were some huffs, snorts, and derisive grunts. As the sun dipped into the horizon, Naruto watched Satsuki walk out of the academy sadly, and went home. He couldn't even believe that the Uchiha clan, the most powerful clan of the village, was wiped out in a single night, much less Satsuki's entire family. Plus, Satsuki was the lone survivor. Was he being insensitive in being glad for that last part? If he was, then Naruto couldn't even be sorry for it. He really was glad that Satsuki was okay. And just to himself, Naruto even knew how petty he was being in thinking that she had only one person in the entire village to rely on for now, and was feeling remorsefully happy about it. Him. Another week passed by, and Naruto helplessly watched Satsuki getting more and more distant by the day. He was growing increasingly worried for her well-being every passing day. Today, the academy was off in favor for the Uchiha clan's memorial service, and Naruto was walking to Haru's shop to find an odd job to make some extra money since he knew his presence at such a high-profile gathering wouldn't be much appreciated. He could, instead, work today and make some money to buy some incense and pay his condolences tomorrow, at the Nakano shrine in the Uchiha clan compounds. When he saw Satsuki sitting on the edge of Naka River though, his feet halted. Naruto walked on the porch and went up to her side, quietly sitting beside her. Neither of them said anything, and just sat there, gazing away at the flowing water in silence. Naruto was the one who eventually broke the silence. Do you want to talk about it? He asked softly. There was a moment of silence before Satsuki answered him. He did it. She replied vaguely. Naruto looked at her, confused. Who did what, Satsuki-chan? Satsuki went silent for another few moments before speaking up. Itachi, she sniffed. He was the one who killed off our clan, and left me alive. He said that I wasn't even worth killing, and that he did it because the clan was growing weak and arrogant. That he had to test the limits of his abilities. She babbled everything out, and Naruto was aghast to realize that Itachi was capable of doing something like this. It honestly didn't make sense to him. Itachi was the strongest among his kin and the boy knew it too. Why would he test his limits on something he knew were beneath him? Naruto had only met the guy a couple of times, sure, but he couldn't bring himself to think that Itachi was the kind of guy who would slaughter his clan on a whim. Naruto was broken out of his thoughts though when Satsuki continued. He made me watch the whole massacre, again, and again, and again, for 72 hours. Naruto blanched visibly. How? He couldn't help but ask. Satsuki wiped her moist eyes. By putting me under a genjutsu. He told me to develop my hatred equal to his, so that one day, he might be able to test his abilities against me. I was really scared of him. Naruto would have gone on to comfort her had she been sad or crying. But Satsuki was trembling with righteous fury. I'll kill him, she promised in a stormy voice. I'll kill him, I swear I'll annihilate him and avenge my clan. I swear that on my life. I'll develop my hatred to equal his, and then, I'll cut off all my ties with everyone if that's what it takes to attain power. And that's why, Naruto, we can't be friends anymore. She admitted, not making eye contact with him. Naruto said nothing, just kept chucking pebbles in the river in deep thought. You're wrong, you know, he eventually said. Satsuki glared at him indignantly. You think you can convince me to forget my revenge? Naruto cut her off. I'm not saying to forget your clan, and your promise of avenging them. He interjected knowingly, making her blink. That was all everyone in the village was trying to convince her about the past few days. I'm just saying, that right now, you are trying to follow the path Itachi told you to obtain that kind of power. He told her his perspective on the matter. Satsuki looked at him, adorably confused. Whatever do you mean? Naruto sighed, deciding to elaborate his point through that thick skull of hers. I mean, he told you to develop your hatred and gain power, right? He asked and she nodded mutely. Itachi was the one who killed off your clan, Satsuki. Do you think he would leave you alive, and tell you a way to gain power to kill him? I don't think I would do that if I were as smart as him, to be honest. Naruto knew that his point had been duly noted when the feisty girl by his side fell awfully silent. Satsuki thought about it, his words, deliberating her stance, but he gained his power through hatred. By cutting all of his ties, Itachi was able to kill off our clan. If I too can attain the same power as him, I can avenge them. She argued fiercely, only to glare at Naruto's resigned sigh. And what difference would there be between you and him? Satsuki looked at him wide-eyed, looking ready to breathe fire. How dare you compare me to him? She hissed venomously. Itachi killed off everyone he knew, and left me alive because I wasn't even worth killing. Do you think I am the same as him? She asked in a warning tone, daring him to answer. Naruto ignored her tone and answered nonetheless. No, he shook his head. Satsuki, you are 1,000 times better than he will ever be. He gave her a kind smile, making her cheeks turn pink, but she was still mad. Dang it. But I don't want you to walk down the same path as Itachi did, and then come to regret it. She opened her mouth to protest, but Naruto continued on, undeterred. Take your revenge, sure, but do it on your own terms, not how Itachi told you to. Satsuki had no counter to any of his arguments. Her fists clenched her shorts. Damn it, she snarled and chucked a pebble in the river. I hate it when you're right. Naruto smiled, opting to stay silent and looped his little finger with her own. I'm here for you, he tried to convey. Satsuki, knowing what his subtle gesture meant, looped hers right back. You're right, she sighed in defeat. I won't sever all of my bonds. But I will not be held down by any excess weight either. She dared him to argue with her, but Naruto held his silence firmly. I will kill Itachi, and then my clan would be avenged. She promised. Naruto smiled, knowing full well that this was the most he was going to get out of her. That's good, he nodded approvingly. I'll help you gain your goal in any way I can. I promise, and I never go back on my word to Bayo. Naruto jabbed a proud thumb on his chest, grinning foxily. Satsuki giggled tearfully. Idiot, she whispered, forcing her head on his shoulder. Naruto frowned. I take offense to that, to Bayo. And wrapped his arm around her shoulder to give it a rub. Shut up. Satsuki's smile betrayed her words. Grumble. Satsuki blushed fiercely, and shot away from Naruto as if he was some sort of disease. She shied her eyes away when Naruto chuckled at her embarrassment. She tried to glare at him, but her blush took the effect off of it, and Naruto only laughed harder. Satsuki narrowed her eyes. Are you making fun of me? She murmured quietly, like a kitten trying to bare her fangs at her mother. Naruto kept a firm hand on her head and gave it a rub. I'll never make fun of you. If possible. Satsuki blushed and glared even harder. Why damn it. Shut up. She slapped his hand away, and looked away to hide her reddened face from him. Her flustered retort only made Naruto shake his head in amusement, and get up. Come on, he motioned for her to follow his lead. Let's go back to my apartment. I'll cook something up for you there. I'm a bit hungry myself. He lied to save her some face, and didn't even have to look back to know that she was obediently following him. Satsuki, unbeknownst to Naruto, kept holding his little finger in a firm loop while he pulled her along. Try as she might, the hotness in Satsuki's ear tips just wouldn't die down. Maybe she was coming down with something? Who knew? Red heart. Naruto didn't need to look back if Satsuki was happy following him, sure, but she had yet to protest to his hold on her little finger. He had kept his hold light, freeing her to pull away if she so desired, but she hadn't, and Naruto couldn't be happier by it. The pair walked into the residential shinobi district, and onward to Naruto's apartment complex in complete silence. Naruto walked Satsuki into his apartment, and it would be a lie to say that the girl wasn't surprised at the size and opulence his apartment seemed to exhibit, though that nudged a small little doubt in her mind as well. I thought you were an orphan, and didn't have any parents to inherit off of. Satsuki asked him with the bluntness of a hammer, and Naruto might have taken offense to anyone else, but Satsuki was well Satsuki. How do you even afford this place? She asked, shamelessly hopping onto the granite counter of the kitchen while Naruto began gathering his cooking supplies. I don't, Naruto agreed, putting some onions on the chopping board. And I don't pay for anything around here. The old man gave it to me, and I don't even have to pay for utilities. It's all taken care of, he clarified, as he took out and started sautéing some raw meat and vegetables in a pan. Satsuki hummed in curiosity, flopping her legs back and forth. Who's the old man? She asked, confused, while silently watching him cut everything up and prepare their lunch. The Hokage. Naruto replied offhandedly. Satsuki eyed him in disbelief. You call the Hokage old man? Her tone mirrored her apprehension. Naruto, though, chuckled at her disbelieving tone and reaction. It was only natural to him. He knew it was strange for someone like him to know someone of Hiruzen's stature so closely. Yeah, Naruto murmured fondly. I've known him ever since I was a baby. He's just always been there for me to bayo, and I have always called him that. He isn't really stuck up for formalities that way. Satsuki bit her tongue, and kept her retort to herself for now. It didn't keep him from putting my father in place whenever he called him Sarutobi. Was what she couldn't say right now without choking on her words from those memories. Hey, Satsuki wiped the moistness off her eyes. Put some tomatoes in there, alright? Naruto turned to her with a raised eyebrow, apparently amused. Satsuki glared at him hotly. What? She snapped, annoyed. Tomatoes? Seriously? Naruto had to bite his knuckle to keep himself composed. And you say my obsession with Ichiraku's pork cutlet bowl is strange to Bayo? He heaved in laughs. Satsuki glared at his back, but kept herself from throwing an egg at the back of his head when Naruto took out some tomatoes, and obediently tossed them in the frying pan. Bastard, Satsuki muttered in a low voice. Naruto heard it clearly though, bitch, he replied coolly. Satsuki kept trying to dig holes in the back of head with her eyes afterwards. Maybe the Sharingan could do that? Who knew? After a few moments, unbeknownst to one another, both of them smiled unanimously and bit back on some silent chuckles for their earlier exchange. Naruto served lunch on the counter, and both of them ignored any formalities in favor of digging in. Naruto watched her eat, even more entertained when Satsuki ripped apart the tomatoes and squished them in her mouth as best as she possibly could. Satsuki kept glaring at him the whole time, while Naruto just kept eating his own omelet with a smile on his face. Satsuki kept humming on his counter afterwards, while Naruto finished the dishes. Trying to make small talk, you like the food, huh? Naruto asked with a playful wiggle to his eyebrows. Satsuki rolled her eyes condescendingly. Tomatoes always taste great, she retorted sarcastically. Naruto kept a fist to his chest, acting wounded. Satsuki chucked an apple to his face, which, surprisingly, hit him square in the face. Naruto doubled over in pain, holding his nose, and Satsuki's eyes widened when she saw some red liquid leak out from his hands. She instinctively rushed near him, worried. Satsuki placed a hand on his back. Kia, completely out of character, Satsuki squealed in glee when Naruto nudged her back on the floor, and toppled over her with a laugh. He cheekily held up the squished remains of her beloved tomato with a grin. Gotcha. Naruto chuckled blithely. His laugh ceased when his ears caught a sniffle, and he looked down to see Satsuki covering her eyes with her arms to try and hide her tears from him in vain. Satsuki, Naruto sighed, knowing full well her tears weren't from the pain of falling down, or for his prank. He didn't even know how to comfort her right now, having no idea what losing something as precious as family meant. Naruto didn't even know what having a family felt like in the first place. Doing the thing that Hiruzen always used to do whenever he wanted to cry, Naruto cradled the small of her back with one palm and the back of her head with another. He gently pulled Satsuki's face closer to his neck, and started rubbing her back in soothing circles. There was no need for words or condolences, Naruto knew that. He knew that it would be lying if he told her that everything would be alright. It wasn't alright. Her family and loved ones were gone. Dead. They were never coming back. There was no turning back time. I'm sorry, Satsuki. Naruto apologized for his own weakness in the matter. Satsuki's soft sniffles eventually died down, and she broke off of his hold to go and wash her face. To avoid any awkwardness, Naruto went through some scrolls, and never once did he bring up the matter of vulnerability she had shown a few moments ago, even in the wildest of his pranks. Satsuki, meanwhile, was amazed that Naruto was learning the art of sealing at so young an age. Retired shinobi only ever seemed to take interest in the lost art since it required ample amounts of patience and hard work, traits really uncommon among children her age. But Naruto had so many scrolls on various strategies used in the previous wars that Satsuki couldn't but feel giddy on the inside. It was a subject that lured her in pretty nicely, to put it lightly, and she hadn't ever reasoned her blonde bundle of joy for one to take a liking for anything of this sort, or even the kind of house he lived in for a boy who lived in this lavish a place. He was quite humble and simple-minded, if Satsuki was to be perfectly honest. Satsuki pitied the fools who never passed him a second chance to be friends. Their loss, her gain though. Naruto was presently going through a new taijutsu style that Hiruzen had been kind enough to give him, nearly 2 weeks prior, after the man had learned of the fact that the instructors at the academy were teaching him some weird stances. Sarutobi had even told him that this style was created by his father, and was his to learn by birthright. But he had warned Naruto not to show it to the village for now, since everyone would recognize it. Hearing this, Naruto was getting really hyped over who his father actually was. He must have been a formidable shinobi if he could create such an awesome taijutsu style all on his own. But Naruto had promised Hiruzen to wait for the man to tell him about his parentage. And if there was one thing's absolute, it was that Naruto never broke his promises. Ever. Naruto had come to realize that it was heavily based on speed and the use of Sharingan for maintaining and countering moves at such high speed. He saw he won't be able to use it anytime soon since it would take him a lot of time to get his body ready for it, but saw that this style really was perfect for him. Satsuki glanced at his scroll and saw it was a taijutsu scroll and had to admit it would be a really fearsome style if mastered. She was intrigued by it since some of its moves looked like the Uchiha clan's interceptor fist that she herself used. "Hey loser, that's a good style you have got there, where did you find it?" she asked as his eye twitched at being called a loser, but he let it slide. "That is the hummingbird style. The old man gave it to me since my father created it, and he wanted me to use it as I was having trouble with the academy style," he said, and she nodded, then asked a question. "He knows who your father is?" she asked, and he nodded as she looked at him curiously. "He does, but he made a promise him not to tell me until I graduated, and was strong enough to protect myself," he answered, and she nodded, not wanting to be too prying into his life. Both kept on reading, and realized it a bit late that it was already quite late at night. Naruto made them some dinner, which apparently had some tomatoes added again the moment he turned his back on her. Satsuki, having finished her dinner, got up to leave, when Naruto spoke up. "You can stay the night if you'd like," he offered nervously. Satsuki cocked an eyebrow. "Well, I do have a few spare rooms, and the house is big enough for the two of us. It is really late, and you could spend the night here if you'd like," Naruto nervously suggested, and she stared at him blankly to get on the poor boy's nerves some more. When Satsuki had finally had enough of her sadistic tendencies at mind-torturing Naruto, "All right," she agreed, and smiled when he breathed a sigh of relief. The blonde showed her the biggest spare room he had to offer, and handed her some of his own night clothes, which were a bit big for her, but she accepted them gratefully nonetheless. Inwardly, Satsuki was thankful that she didn't have to return to an empty house. The walls would surely haunt her mind with the memories of a family she no longer had, but she'd be dead before she admitted something as embarrassing as this to Naruto. Satsuki took him up on the offer to use his room's shower before she went to bed. An hour over midnight, Naruto came out to drink water and walked past the door residing his overnight guest. His ears perked up hearing soft shuffles of sheets, and barely audible sniffing. He held the doorknob for a moment, contemplating if it was okay for him to invade her privacy like that, but another soft wail eventually managed to cave his heart in. He walked in as quietly as he possibly could, and saw Satsuki whimpering in her sleep. Naruto had no idea on what he was supposed to do. Unlike Hiruzen, who was practically a grandfather to him and had cared for Naruto since he was a baby, Satsuki was Naruto's friend, and so, Naruto wasn't sure if this was within the boundaries of their friendship. But with the way she was shivering and crying, he could deduce that she was reliving the nightmare of the massacre that Itachi had forcefully planted in her subconscious. He quietly sat down on the ground beside her bed, and started petting her head for assuring her that she wasn't alone tonight, that he was there for her. His ministration seemed to have done the trick, since Satsuki quieted down considerably and snuggled into her comforters with a little smile. After a few moments, when his own head began to tip drowsily, Naruto removed his hand and got up to leave. Satsuki frowned in her sleep, and started trembling. Again, Naruto immediately sat down and began rubbing her head again, only to sigh when she snuggled into a deep sleep yet again. This was going to be a long night, Naruto mused. He kept caressing her head for a couple more hours, after which, the realms of unconsciousness finally claimed his soul, and he fell asleep himself. All the while, Satsuki clutched his hand to her chest like a lifeline. Satsuki woke up to the bright rays of sunrise with a smile. This was arguably the best sleep she had slept ever since the massacre, without getting any nightmares to break her slumber. She realized she had clutched something in her sleep, and blinked when she saw that it was a hand. Her eyes followed the arm all the way up to his neck, and finally landed on Naruto. The boy sat asleep on the floor, and his head was on her bed, idly snoring away because of way she had clutched his hand. A faint smile lit up her face. She could figure out the reason for her fabulous sleep pretty well now. "Idiot," she whispered, smiling, and shook him a little to wake the blonde up. Said boy woke up with a crack to his sore neck, his groan making Satsuki laugh, but they ceased when she gazed into his sleepy eyes looking at her in concern. "Morning, Satsuki-chan." Naruto chirped with a rub to his eyes. "Morning, Naruto," she greeted softly, as he got up and worked out the clacks in his stiff body. Both started getting ready for the academy, none of them feeling the need for exchanging any words with the other. Naruto handed her some cereal, and had some himself before both started walking out of the apartment. After a shower, Satsuki had to walk back towards the Uchiha complex to pick up a change of clothes from yesterday. She changed her clothes in her house while Naruto waited her outside, and both finally started walking towards the academy in silence before she spoke. "Thank you?" Naruto looked at her, confused as to what she could possibly be thanking him for. "What for, Satsuki-chan?" "For last night. For staying with me. I didn't have a single nightmare, and it was the first night I slept peacefully ever since the massacre, and it's all thanks to you, Naruto," Satsuki admitted with a smile. Naruto mirrored her smile with one of his own, and threw his arms behind his head with a slight flush to his cheeks. "It's alright," he rubbed his nose cheekily. "You can use the spare room anytime you want. It's collecting dust anyways, and it is good to have someone in a house that big and not to be alone by myself," he slickly suggested, and Satsuki nodded in agreement. She thrust a storage scroll in his hands, making him stagger a little from the force with which she had handed it to him. Naruto looked between her and the scroll hesitantly, confused. "That contains a few pair of my clothes," Satsuki clarified with a huff. "If I stay there sometimes, then I want my clothes to be there. So, put them in the closet in my room, will you?" she said airily with a flick to her ponytail. Naruto's sweat dropped. She was already planning on staying there before I even offered her anything, wasn't she? He mused and sighed in resignation. The blonde wordlessly tucked the scroll in his bag, and Satsuki smirked, seeing the baffled look on his face, already well aware as to what he was thinking. Both entered the academy, hand in hand, and sat in their usual corner as students started coming in and the day went on. Many students were trying to befriend Satsuki even more persistently than ever before, and she even had a fan club of her own due to her new, cold personality. Kiba Inuzuka was the most prominent and arrogant one of them all, and he honestly believed that she should hang out with him since he would help her through her problems, and even get his clan to help her like his mom had told her to. Satsuki, being Satsuki, had refused his offers pretty bluntly, coldly even, and when he had asked as to why, she told him to bugger off and leave her alone. Many other civilian boys had tried their hand over the days, but were refused, or in some cases beaten out of it by Satsuki. Word soon got around that the Ice Princess of the Leaf wasn't interested in taking suitors at all. Some kids had even bleached their hair thinking she into that sort of stuff. Needless to say, there was only one blonde idiot she tolerated around her. Time skipped 5 years later. 5 years had passed since the Uchiha massacre, and things had been going on pretty smoothly for our favorite blonde hero. Today was the day of the graduation exams, and Naruto started reminiscing about all that had happened over the past 5 years. Satsuki and he had gotten even closer than ever before, but she had become a lot colder to virtually everyone who wasn't Naruto ever since the massacre. She had the same icy attitude towards everyone, even the teachers and her psychologist, everyone except him. Now, it wasn't like things were all gung-ho for Naruto, since to him too, Satsuki was a bit colder than before. But she was only spending her free time with him and mostly spent her leisurely time training, and Naruto had gotten used to her new persona over the months. Satsuki was unyielding when it came to maintaining her spot at the top of the class, and Naruto was almost certain that she was likely going to be named the rookie, as well as the kunoichi of his graduating year. Naruto was happy for her, since he was the only one who knew how hard she trained and studied to achieve it, but was saddened by the fact that she was still fixated on getting her revenge. She saw everyone except him as a burden to her, an obstacle getting in her way of obtaining revenge. She wasn't harboring any hatred or dislike towards anyone after his talk, but she didn't exactly care if someone lived or died besides him. Satsuki had spent the entire month after that night at Naruto's apartment, and it had helped her recuperate from the events of the massacre really quickly. She had gotten adjusted to staying at her home again, after a few forceful nudges from Hiruzen, but she still dropped by occasionally to his house, unannounced, and spent the night as he had asked Hiruzen for a spare key in case she needed to stay there, and he wasn't there or awake to open the apartment for her. But she had somehow festered a new, annoying habit of scaring him by coming into his room real early in the morning to wake him up. To anyone else, it might sound endearing, but she always came in real quiet and then yelled wake up or threw a glass of water at him. He had, many times, chased her off with a kunai and a sleepy rage, but she always managed to escape him. Her sadistic, evil side was the only thing about the girl that irritated Naruto to no ends. She had beaten him constantly during their spars due to his less than desired proficiency at the academy's style of taijutsu. Everyone had laughed at Naruto, and aptly called him a loser, but he paid it no mind. Though, it still hurt him that he couldn't use his father's style in the academy's spars and knock Kiba's smug face in with the fabled hummingbird taijutsu style. He had learned nearly all of the basic katas, and had even managed to master his Sharingan to a really high degree. Naruto's pride and joy, however, was when he had created a jutsu that solely was based on shuriken jutsu technique that him and Itachi had devised all those years ago. He took extra precaution not to let Satsuki ever come to know of the latter fact, lest threaten himself to be castrated at her hands. It required the user to have a great mastery over the Sharingan to even attempt it safely, since normal eyes couldn't quite see and calculate the trajectories of multiple blades being bound and simultaneously manipulated by ninja wires to wrap the opponent in a cocoon of wires and immobilize them for a nice old, killer finishing jutsu. It wasn't like he had created it. Itachi had given him an ancient scroll from the Uchiha archives once to see if he could recreate it, and Naruto had done it, so it was his now. Its creators had once named it the Sharingan Windmill Triple Attack, and Naruto hadn't bothered to think up a new name for it. Naruto's mastery over seals had progressed as well, and he was proud to say that he was now a level 5 master, and nearly everyone who knew his skills as a seal master were surprised at his progress, but they were few and far between. Naruto had inherited the natural skills of sealing, and using battle seals came to him almost naturally, just like his father once had. The academy had become a bit rough for Naruto ever since his class had entered the 3rd year. When the instructor started teaching them the basic chakra theory, it was alright, since he already knew those, but the chakra control part was really hard for him. They were especially made for students with Academy to Genin level reserves, and his reserves were anything but that. The Academy 3 jutsu were even harder for him to master, since they all used such minuscule amounts of chakra to perform that it was literally the case of finding a needle in hay for the blonde Jinchuriki. His endless struggles with the transformation and substitution had thankfully been short. It was only a matter of time before both became second nature to him. Naruto was able to do the substitution nearly perfectly now after struggling with it for a year, and now, he didn't even have any need for pulling out hand seals to perform it. The transformation, however, was a different case, since it was a type of genjutsu, and he couldn't possibly have possessed the required chakra control to perform a regular transformation. So instead, one day, after getting frustrated for over 2 years at trying and failing to do the jutsu, Naruto had pumped up a huge amount of chakra in sheer frustration, and envisioned the transformation in his mind. Much to his and Hiruzen's shock, instead of failing, his transformation had attained physical form. The old man had promptly told him that it was a new ninjutsu that he had unknowingly created, and that it wasn't a genjutsu. So it didn't dispel that easily with just a hit, as was the case with the usual one. Naruto had been ecstatic to know that he had learnt and created a new jutsu. Due to these circumstances, even with excelling in academics, he was hitting rock bottom of the class due to him failing the clone jutsu every damn time. Even after trying for 2 years, Naruto, for the life of him, couldn't get it right, and it frustrated him to no ends. In the end, he had to go see Hiruzen for help with his problem, who finally deduced that he won't ever have the necessary chakra control required to perform the jutsu. Naruto was saddened by his answer at first, but was ecstatic when Hiruzen had told him that there were many other types of clones for him to use, and he, being the good old professor that he was, had the perfect ones for someone like him. Hiruzen had given him a scroll containing the multiple shadow clone jutsu on the condition that Naruto didn't teach it to anyone without his permission, and to burn the scroll after he had learned it, since, apparently, it was a forbidden jutsu for some odd reason, and was sealed by its creator, the Nidaime Hokage, in the Shodaime Hokage's scroll of sealing. It was only meant to be taught to those with Jonin level reserves and higher, and was a hidden, secret jutsu treasured greatly by the Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto had learnt in a day, having made some sort of an internal promise to send Hiruzen to an early grave, and had burnt the scroll in front of the old man after showing it to him in the flesh. Hiruzen, who knew how hard it was to master unlike the grinning blonde buffoon in front of him, was stunned beyond belief that he had picked up a Jonin level skill in a day, but had eventually gotten over it by consoling himself that Minato too picked up jutsus like they were nothing, so it was only natural for his son to do the same. Naruto had gotten a hold of some expensive chakra paper with the help of Haru over the previous few days, and both were equally shocked when they found out his affinities. He, apparently, had fire and wind as his primary affinities. When Haru and Naruto had first confronted Hiruzen over it, the man had, at first, chased Naruto throughout his office with a cane for some odd reason, and had told the two of them that some ninjas did, in fact, wield dual affinities at the same time, but had slickly left out the part that Naruto had gained the wind element from his father. The Namikaze clan usually had the rare wind element as their primary affinity, and fire was ever present due to their strong ties to part Uchiha genetics. Hiruzen had also informed him Naruto that wind was a rare element in the land of fire, and had given him a fire jutsu from the Sarutobi clan's vast library. Sarutobis were, coincidentally, masters of the fire element second only to the Uchiha in its mastery. Sarutobi had gotten him the fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu, a B-ranked fire jutsu that required huge amounts of chakra, or a great control over the fire element to compensate for it. Naruto was learning it, and had to admit that it was pretty hard for him due to having virtually no training in elemental manipulation beforehand, and it drained even his reserves after a couple of extended uses because of his lack of control over his fire affinity. It wasn't even as powerful as it should have been, since Naruto had seen Hiruzen tune his flames to such an intensity that it glowed a brilliant white, unlike Naruto's dull yellow. The blonde walked into the academy with a sigh, and trudged right into the classroom's corner on seeing Satsuki already sitting there, gazing out the window, and went up the stairs to sit beside her. "Morning, Satsuki-chan." Naruto chirped out excitedly for the exams. Satsuki grunted "HN." Naruto sighed. She did it with everyone besides him, and sometimes, he was included in that special list as well. Needless to say, this tick of hers annoyed him to no end. "You're a real social butterfly, you know that, right?" he asked rhetorically with a roll of his eyes. Satsuki's eyebrows knitted closer in annoyance. "Bastard, bitch," Naruto coolly replied. Satsuki glared at him. He always did this to get under her skin and then would have an innocent smile on his face to follow it. That last part annoyed her to no end. "So you ready for the exams?" he asked, ignoring her glare, and she huffed and looked away. "What's there to be ready about?" Satsuki clipped, miffed. "Even a loser like you could pass it all without any problems. That's how lame they are," she said. Naruto's eye twitched at being called a loser, but shrugged it off when he heard some students coming in, but it was followed by a loud stomping noise, as if some rampaging bulls were coming towards them. Suddenly, the door opened, and Ino and Sakura came in bickering about who won, and who would sit next to Kiba. The boy himself had an arrogant look on his face. Naruto, though, sighed when he walked up to them. "Oh, the joy," note his sarcasm. "Hey," Kiba grinned with hands in his pockets. "Satsuki-chan, you ready for the exams? Maybe after the exams, we could go out on a date, or something, and leave the loser behind. What say you?" He wiggled his eyebrows suggestively as Satsuki turned to look at him with a blank face. Naruto didn't even bother replying to the Inuzuka. This was usual to him now, and everyone knew Kiba had the pride the size of the Hyuga, like all of them in one. "You should be worried about the exams," Satsuki snipped. "Since dogs aren't allowed, you won't have any help today, and as for the date, no, and that answer won't change no matter how many times you asked me," she replied. The whole class followed suit and laughed at him, while Kiba, and by virtue, Sakura and Ino fumed. "Hey!" Sakura protested. "Don't say that about Kiba-kun. He is 100 times better than that dead lass you hang out with." Sakura fired, and for once, Ino nodded while Kiba had a smug look on his face seeing girls come to his defense. "Don't play hard to get, Satsuki-chan." Kiba slurred sleazily. "You know you couldn't resist me, now can you?" he asked flirtingly, humiliatingly in Satsuki's case because she sighed. "And here I thought you at least had a brain for normal use. But I guess that the dog is the brains of the two. If you can't even understand a simple rejection, I see no hope for you, mutt." Satsuki fired the last nail in the coffin, dismissing him with a wave of her hand while everyone laughed again. Naruto snickered at the boy's misfortune, while Kiba fumed and glared at him, and was about to fire back, but Iruka entered the classroom and shushed them all up. "All right, class," he settled his register on the table. "Settle down so we can begin with the graduation exams," he announced, but no one really bothered paying attention to him. A tick mark formed on his head, and a short growl gave way to a loud, booming voice as his head grew larger to epic proportions and the man shouted, "I said settle down, you brats.